Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Obaga. Fire broke out at the University of Nairobi's Taifa Hall last night, causing significant damage to the building. Videos shared on social media showed the intensity of the blaze, with smoke and flames visible from across the campus. While the cause of the fire remains unknown, reports indicate that emergency responders have since arrived at the scene and are battling the raging inferno. No injuries or fatalities have been reported. Kenyatta National Hospital Chief Executive Officer Dr. Avin has clarified that a system downtime was responsible for the disruption of patient services, including those related to the Social Health Authority at the facility. Dr. Kamuri expressed his apologies to patients and their families for the inconveniences caused by the failures of the SHA system. His statement came after angry patients protested what they termed as failure of the system, saying that they were unable to access services.
We are outside there waiting the gate. We are at the gate waiting. 20 patients. We have walked all the way from Kenyatta Hospital coming here for treatment. From last week, Wednesday, the systems are not working. And I've come here to protest, to say that they are not working. There are patients in the ward who have been discharged and they have not been treated. This man has a child. Come sit here. He has come all the way from Kipruto. Come and sit here. His child has swollen a coin. From yesterday, he has been waiting for the shot to work. It is not working.
Well, meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has dispelled fears of a shortage of antiretroviral drugs and BCG vaccines in the country. Here's the Director General for Health, Patrick Amoth.
Well, what we have done in the meantime is to be able to redistribute from the low utilization facilities to the high volume facilities to be able to bridge that gap in the meantime. However, we have also instructed the subnational level or the county level to be able to ensure that they record those who have missed the vaccines, such that when these vaccines then become available at the end of the month, then we can be able to do the catch-up vaccination.
And the opposition is now calling on President William Ruto to resign following the recent abduction incidents that have been reported and even confirmed by some senior government officials. Led by Wiper Party leader, the opposition claims that the move by Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi to record a statement with the DCI regarding the abduction of his son is a clear indication that the Kenya Kwanza government is involved in the activities.
If Ruto refuses to respect and enforce Kenya's constitution and laws, the solution is straightforward. He should resign. The ICC statute talks about the person bearing the highest responsibility, and that is not Nuruddin Haji, that is William Samoei Arap Ruto. We also demand the immediate release of the remaining abductees. We actually have a date on the 27th with the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kanja, before Justice Bahati Namui.
Kalonzo also said that the person leading in the cases of abductions is in Ruaraka area, saying it's not the DCI or police officers who should be held accountable, but rather the president himself for allowing such incidents to continue in the country.
If they will not show up on the 27th, he will cite, convict, and sentence on the spot. So nobody's above the law. And I hope, by the way, before the 27th, the Mlolongo 4 will have been produced as well.
Kalonzo's statement was echoed by Jubilee Party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, who claimed it was time for Kenyans to open their eyes and hold the government accountable.
And since it's Mr. William Ruto who makes a cause and they are released, let him also make another call, release them.
Any person within the KK administration who chooses to remain until the end, or who chooses to leave earlier than the end, and the end can be earlier than that end, you think.
This comes as the Kenya National Human Rights Commission revealed that 85 people have been abducted since June last year, with 25 still missing. And in the international scene, US President Joe Biden hailed many months of intensive diplomacy for bringing about a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, as he outlined the next steps of the deal to end 15 months of war. At a White House briefing, he said he was deeply satisfied this day has come and called the negotiations some of the toughest of his career. The agreement consists of 3 phases, Biden said, the first of which includes a full and complete ceasefire which will begin on 19th January, the day before he leaves office. That's the News Wire. I'm Lydiah Ubaga.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
You know, with politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kiswahili.
Ben low, nin inte, yenin der, ayu markati kadikta. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him, who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. You know, sweating is biblical. And you must blame it on Adam, not me. You know, because Adam messed up and he was told, now you fellow you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning and welcome to Thursday. A quick look at what's happening in the city this morning. On the roads, not much in terms of traffic. All going to be built up, I'm sure, as we get into the morning proper. There's a little bit of movement coming off a thicker superhighway. It'll take you to Survey, where it's going to close down and your service lanes come to an end. And on to Uhuru Highway. Not much with traffic here getting into the city. Coming from Mombasa Road. Langata Road looks good, as does the Southern Bypass. Let's take a quick look at the Eastern Bypass, and traffic will start to build up here later. But as you come off on Outer Ring, not much happening here at this time. Let's see what Thursday morning has in store. In an attempt to keep things moving, let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning. It's 11 minutes after 6 o'clock. It's Thursday, the first Friday of the week, and here we are. Where? Let me arrange myself. Oh, thank you, Avin. Well done. Have you guys seen Avin? Avin is there. He has refused to wave. He's run away. He said he's shy. Good morning, CT. Good morning, Aseto.
Good morning, Ndu. How are you?
I am fine.
Mm-hmm.
CT, how are you?
Good morning, Ndu.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yes.
No. Asking about life. Asking questions.
And asking how I am. Well, Montezuma went back where he came from.
Fantastic.
So he and I are no longer having any discussion.
There's some visitors we don't want to keep for long.
No, not that particular visitor is not welcome.
We know what will be.
Because there's very many topsy-turvy, yes, mambo mingi mbaya. Yes.
Things are happening. Aseto, how was your day yesterday?
But it was actually really, really good. Nothing much to talk about. Just grateful to be here. Yako?
Que sera, my friend.
Whatever will be, will be.
I asked my mother,
what will life be?
Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Here's what she said to me. Que sera. Whatever will be, will be.
The future's not ours to see. Que sera.
That is when we say anguka nayo.
Yeah, but that, my friend, is the interpretation, the modern of that particular song.
In fact, when they did it, they did not know that in the future, what was it?
We'll summarize it, anguka nayo.
Okay.
Let's bring it back home, closer home.
No, then is that one. You've anguka nayo. That song is old, by the way.
It's a very old song. But it's got meaning till today, hasn't it?
It does. Well, what tells you is that Ndu's parents loved music?
So much. Very much so.
Your father played the piano, didn't he?
My dad would play the piano, he would sing, and we would all gather around sing with him. My mom sang as well. So, I mean, yeah.
Unasikia hiyo bwana? Pancheza.
Pancheza.
The singing I did was 844 Kimalel Primary School. Yeah.
Mlikuwa mnaimba?
I was actually a soloist.
Soloist?
Yeah.
Nyimbo kama gani ulikuwa naimba solo?
It was actually Lydiah.
Just stanza moja, no, Billy.
Just one. Come on. We cannot say things like that.
And then just 2 lines and then we are good.
Please, now you want us to beg.
There's actually a song that comes from the Lydiah community during circumcision, yeah?
Yes.
So it would go like, Mulochi go, eh? Mulochi vaya go, yeah. So it's all about when...
By the way, you have a very good voice, man. I know you have a good voice because I have a terrible voice when it comes to singing. So I can recognize a good voice. Hey, again, that Mulusi go.
Mulusi come.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I've said.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually went all the way to the nationals, I remember.
Wow.
But got cancelled last minute because apparently during the night we were practicing and the organizers of the event at Ngara kicked us out. But word in town is they were afraid that we were going to win, so the easiest way is to kick us out of the competition. Corruption ilianza kitambo
sana.
And they didn't give reasons for kicking out of the competition?
You see, we were making noise at night.
Practicing.
Yeah, practicing.
Yeah, but you can't sing. A song can't be heard unless it's sung loudly, can it?
Yes.
Well, let's see what today will be. A couple of conversations that we have lined up for today and who we will be talking with. All right, so we know that cabinet nominations were up. We know that vetting took place. Today is the day when some of those decisions will be made. What comes to my mind is that, you know how there's a picture of a bicycle that's been wrapped up in wrapping paper and somebody says to you, guess the gift. That's what it is for me. Why don't you guess if the cabinet nominees will actually be confirmed by the Parliamentary Select Committee? Why don't you guess? What do you think will actually happen? Former Agriculture Minister Kipruto Kirwa will join us at 7 a.m. and we'll be looking at the nomination process in Kenya and what this all would mean and how do you think it will go? That will be followed at 8 o'clock by Strategic Communications Advisor Dr. Barak Muluka. And we'll be looking at political alignments, which way forward in Kenya. The political alignments, we cannot run away from them. They are there. Some of these nominations are political, again, whether we want to admit it or not. So we'll be looking at how it's going to take the country. And then finally at 9 a.m., is there honesty in Kenya's politics? Jeremiah Kioni, he's the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, will join us at 9. And so those are some of the things that we'll be looking at this morning as we get into it. Karibuni sana. Live streams are up on YouTube and Facebook. Good to have you here in the room. And as we continue, and those who are, of course, joined on terrestrial, Karibu sana on our frequencies around the country, the region, and indeed the world. We'll take a short break, look at what's happening with weather, and then we'll come and say hello to you as we get into it this morning. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
And the weather this morning, we start with Nairobi, highs of 23 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. And in Kakamega County, that is the western part of the country, highs of 30 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. Down south to Mombasa, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. Let's go to the lakeside city of Kisumu, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 17 degrees. And in Kenya's fourth city, Nakuru City, highs of 27 degrees and lows of 11 degrees. And across borders to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, highs of 22 degrees and lows of 7 degrees. Mogadishu, Somalia, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 23 degrees. And in Paris, the city of love, highs of 6 degrees and lows of 0 degrees. And in China, highs of 4 degrees and lows of negative 4 degrees. That is the weather. These are
mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
At 18 after 6 o'clock, wacha tusalimie watu.
Kabisa. Jimmy Munuthe, good morning Spice Team. Well-flavored entertainment in the morning. Karibu sana. Hamjambo nyote, semeni hatujambo.
Hatujambo, mwalimu.
Kabisa. After Abduction lead blew up, now is Asha. Then higher education funding. What is next? Dennis in City, how are you? Tuko salama sana. Mimi niko salama kabisa. Byron Otieno, GM Shani Shambles, and Robert Mbogo, good morning from Mombasa. Good morning to you. Michael Olande, good morning team. Elizabeth Kamau, good morning. Spice Situation Room team. Tuko salama sana, and everybody else who's listening in. Elizabeth Kamau, Shah System in Shambles. That we shall be talking about a little bit later. And Leo, hello Princess Ndu.
Good morning.
City ko salama?
Kabisa, salama salminia.
Yeah, Mipien ko salama. Could all this abduction be a way of the ruling political class trying to regain its fallacy power over the citizenry, which they presumed they had? Monica.
How's that one working?
It is not working. It is not kabisa. Yeah, and Leo, hello Princess Ndu, could all okay. So Monica Oile, our sister Ndu, has been belaboring this point all along. You think the president is not aware of the kidnappings? Is he not aware that Shah is not working? He is not watching news or hearing? Question is he listening? And Linus Gitonga, good morning. Bongi Juma, good morning. Spice FM guys, mkoye tuko salama sana. Ndu, ask City if he is aware attack in Uganda. Ask him.
City, are you aware of attack in Uganda?
No, I read it for the first time there. No, I am not, but I will familiarize myself with it.
Yeah, it is the epicenter of violent clash in April 1995 between LRA rebels led by Joseph Kony and Okoh Odhiambo against Wairimu Museveni's UPDF. Well, Winnie Washaria, hi to you. Stanley Omonde, good morning from Kisumu Dala, Kisumu, karibuni sana. Oyapindi Maxwell, Bungoma Ingo, karibu sana. Beatrice Omanwa from Dallas, Texas, karibu sana. My prince, the problem is our field health system is the funds. System failure is an excuse. Where is our money? Good questions. Bongi Juma, first regime where nominee is government refused to take up jobs. Ajabu hiyo. Hi, tuko salama sana. Loving the show, karibu sana na asante sana. Good morning from Dr. Eda. Kenyans have suffered enough narcissistic abuse for a lifetime. Morning, Spice family. Still in New York, Sandra Sharia. Good morning, Spice. What do we spice our food with today? Stay tuned. Actually, we have a lot packed up for you in the show today. And yes, Douglas Kibogong, your concerns have been picked up. We shall sort that out. And Douglas Kibogong, wamekuongelesha hapo. Usijaribu kutoka hapa.
What did I do?
What do you do? And George Adimo, good morning, SpiceFM family, listening from Rongo, Baria Rongo. Good morning, SpiceFM. K&F Softtech Graphics, Sandra Sherry as well. In Chris Maurer, the radio signal today from yesterday's journey. That is the technical issue. It's being sorted out. Hesbon Sidon, good morning from County of Kasongo. Greetings from my neighbor. All right.
Okay.
And morning in Nakuru, that is a technical issue as well that will be addressed. Lydiah is working on that. Good morning, Spice family tuned in from Houston, Texas. And good morning, TBT watching from Nanyuki. Good morning, team. Glad to see you all in here. Princess Ndu and Mwalimu Aseto, wishing you all a great day. Kabisa. And Sharia is in Andrew Mark, Revenue Investment, Irene Wanjohi, Jumbo guys, love you, Irregu Enjoy from Mombasa, and Rahim Tulomar from Colchester. As usual, budget 4.5 trillion back to square one, and everybody else who's listening to Nasema karibuni sana.
Good morning, everybody. We don't take it for granted that you join us every morning as we get into things. So, karibuni sana as we warm up the seats today. Bado tuko Uganda.
Yes, we are. You know, it's a good thing that the gentleman who reminded us of that, who was he?
Pap D, about Atiak.
Yes, it was actually a massacre.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a massacre, and the people who were massacred, they were the Acholi people.
Yeah.
The Lord's Resistance Army, it was said, was sponsored by Sudan. That attack that left very many people dead, young boys and girls were taken away by Lord's Resistance Army to be conscripted, some to be used as sex slaves. That ended the diplomatic relationships between Uganda and Sudan. That particular incident, because it said Uganda was sponsoring the LRA, and so this problem that has been brought upon our people is as a result of the support that you've been giving them. So it was not, and Atiak is a town actually. It was not something that went unnoticed, and thank you very much for raising it. Yes.
Did you know that I know because it's a word that I really like to say, that this the engagement ceremony is called in Buganda is called the Kwanjula.
Is it?
Yeah, I just like the word a lot. And I've been for a couple of them. I think they're really
well. You know, the one of the things that you find within African countries is that we don't have a shortage of wealth when it comes to our culture and our history.
True.
Yes, forget the watering down by these visitors who decided they want to colonize us.
Yeah.
The tapestry of our culture and our ways of life, the way it's interwoven, and the depth and the strength of it is remarkable when you get to understand it.
Lydiah, umesikia your tapestry.
Tapestry. Huh? Punctilious.
I'm telling you, today is going to be a good day for Lydiah. What's the Luo one called?
The Luo word for what?
For the engagement ceremony.
Aye.
Nyombo.
There's another.
There's a year.
There's a year. There's Nyombo.
Nyombo, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what. Yeah, okay, it's one of those. Okay, anyway, yeah, that's very interesting. Today's proverb.
Yes. A dog with a bone in its mouth cannot bite you.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like totally opposite, but I would say Not that you invited me to give my opinion, but I'm going to give it anyway. If you keep your enemies busy, you can go ahead doing whatever it is that you need to.
Mm-hmm. They won't focus on something that they set out to do.
Yes.
They will be busy with the other alternate things. And those alternate things have to be pleasant.
Yeah. Must be something that, nice shiny toy that they
something that looks good and makes them like political appointments, things like that.
Exactly.
I will construct you a road.
Yes, the trinkets that are offered. And
I would insist that you become AUC chair. Okay, did I say that out loud?
Yes, you did.
Sorry.
No, you did. It does fall into that basket.
Isn't it?
Yes, because you're talking about a basket of goodies, and you're saying you're offering it so that a certain end might be achieved. Now, while all these things are happening and we're discussing all these things, as we discuss abductions which are happening and which are bizarre and which are painful, the cost of living has not moved. No, it has not. Children who are in the CBC system and waiting to understand their fate, that situation is exactly where it is. Shif. My friend, a work in progress, to put it as politely as one possibly can. And as it progresses, the pain that the individuals who are seeking medical help through that particular service, the pain also increases. So, again, yes, a dog with a bone in its mouth cannot bite you.
That's it. All right. Let's take a look at the headlines this morning and see what is making the news. On the front page of the Standard, the buck stops here. There's a picture of the president of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Arap Ruto. He's holding a cup of tea and a phone in his hand. The headline is, desperately trying to secure his abducted son's freedom, a distressed CS Justin Muturi knew only one person could help, President Ruto. Yet for a majority of parents whose children met the same fate, they lack the privilege that the former Attorney General enjoyed and instead have had to spend countless days and nights searching for them. Now, rights groups say it is easy for the head of state to end the abductions as the buck stops with him. President Ruto, during an event in Homa Bay, said, "What has been sold about abductions, we will stop them so Kenyan youth can live in peace. But they should have discipline and be polite so that we can build Kenya together." Okay. He also was speaking in the North Rift and he said, listen, any child that puts anyone in a coffin could eventually be the first to go in. Don't lie to yourselves that you will put others in a coffin and live. Listen, I tell you and warn you, be careful. Edwin Sifuna, ODM Secretary General, just yesterday said there is no way the head of state can say he doesn't know what is doing, who is doing these things, these abductions. If you go to the president and tell him, hey, bro, release my son, and he makes one phone call and the kid is released, that tells you he is the person doing it.
Let me ask a question, my dear. This one, we only look at we're previewing the topic, but no, why don't we discuss it later?
Okay.
Carry on.
Write it down so you remember, because I could see the twinkle in your eye and I was ready to answer.
No, the twinkle can stay. Okay. We'll talk about it later.
Judy Thongori, a very good friend of mine, rights defender, takes a final bow. Unfortunately, she passed yesterday after a short illness. Revealed school fee scandal. Hey, God in heaven. Please, God, help. Please. It reaches a point where you just say, you guys, let us pray.
We need divine intervention.
We need divine intervention because this thing is too much. School fee scandal as heads warn of looming shutdown, even as schools struggle with crippling financial challenges over delayed capitation funds and warn of an imminent shutdown. We reveal details of a troubling trend where public secondary schools blatantly disregard government-imposed fee caps, forcing parents to dig deeper into their pockets. Kalonzo says to Ruto, quit now over law violations. Wiper Party leader Musyoka criticizes President Ruto and his administration, saying they should resign for blatant refusal to respect and enforce the constitution. Chan is a second chance for East African football. Football has been seen as, the bane or a bane for East Africa. Let's see if the Cup of Nations will make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But
now, the Daily Nation. Governors fight for bursary cash. The battle over the multi-billion shillings bursary scheme has taken a new twist after the control of budget stopped county chiefs from administering the kitty meant for students in primary, secondary and tertiary institutions, with Raila Odinga's Orange Democratic Movement joining the fray. This is all about kids going back to school. Heads of schools saying Ikoshida. Control of budget saying governors will not be issuing those bursaries as well. Doyen of family law's final blow. That is, whenever senior counsel Judy Thongori's name was mentioned, one couldn't help but think of family matters. Her expertise spanned across divorce cases, inheritance disputes, matrimonial property battles, and even mediation, making her a household name. She had her last bow yesterday, and Kenyan wants ex censured. Now, this is platform accused of publishing porn and hate speech. Yep. And secretive NIS who watches over the Big Brother. Now, they operate in plain sight and have presence in economic, political, and social spheres of life. Still, identifying anyone other than their Director General is a near impossible task. Now, the National Intelligence Service, Kenya's first line of defense against internal and external threats, is possibly the most enigmatic government agency. Question that is being asked while they are watching over everybody else. Who is actually watching over them? Who do they answer to? City, what do you have?
Business Daily. Taxes now account for 46% of fuel prices on higher levies. What does it mean? The amount of taxes on the price of a litre of fuel nears 50% mark, meaning whatever you're paying, 50% of it is tax. Just so that you what? You know, okay? Driven by an increase in 2 levies in the latest price that will be placed until February 14th. Okay. Nearly half of real estate companies are not regulated. Did you know this? Huh? Nearly half of real estate companies in Kenya are unregulated. A new report on the sector is revealed, okay? So maybe the question is, what does it mean to be regulated in this particular industry? Direct Line in bid to block SK Macharia's cautionary adverts. The management of Direct Line Assurance has moved to court to stop the businessman SK Macharia from running cautionary adverts. This SK Macharia lost his son John Macharia a while back. He was a proprietor, if not the major shareholder in this company, Direct Line. And there's been this tussle that has been ongoing about the ownership. SK Macharia making claims, matters going to court, and it looks like the matters surrounding this particular business are still ongoing. Okay, 2-bedroom houses have highest rental yields. Investors in big town houses and maisonettes, otherwise known in Kenya as mansionettes, are earning the highest rental yields among residential properties, a new report reveals. Kenya Airways share price doubled in 8 months on NSE return. As they have returned, if share was 2 shillings, now it is 4. Okay, which means, yes, faith in the airline and faith in the things that they're doing is going up. We will call Mr. Alan Klavuka to come here and explain to us these details of how it is that this is happening. This is very good news. But Kenya is a wonderful airline.
Yeah, it is.
Those of us who use it for a very long time. My goodness. A wonderful airline. Immigration, this is bang in the middle of this particular paper. Immigration bosses on the spot over insurance tender. Lobby, protests, restricted tendering for visitors, medical cover, procurement watchdog, PPRA seeks answers. Hey! The public procurement watchdog has backed insurers in a protest against Immigration Department over a restricted multi-billion shilling tender for the newly introduced compulsory medical insurance covers for the foreigners visiting Kenya. Hey! The protest follows the tender floated by the State Department for the Immigration and Citizen Services on December 2024, seeking underwriters for all visitors in Kenya. Okay, this is something else in the making. We are complaining. Tenders were issued. The nature of those tenders are saying, why are you restricting it? Why aren't you opening it up? Restricting means we decide who it is we are allowing to tender. You know, the word, it's self-descriptive, restrictive. Top right-hand corner in teal green in the Star is a picture of Judy Thongori, seasoned lawyer, eulogized as rights advocate. That she was, and many, many positive things more. Radical city transport set to rein in rogue Matatu's operators. This is the story on page 2. There are many mandatory demands for SACCOs to accede before NTSA approval. Okay? This is something that is going to happen. We shall see how it happens, and we shall also see and hear the complaints which will follow. Baby Pendo case hits a snag as plea taking deferred for a third time. Remember, this is a case where there was police officers who were charged with the killing of this particular child.
Yes.
And this case has been going on for some time. Okay? Why NIS chief is under fire as President Ruto's allies go after CS Muturi. See, he just made a statement. Why are they going after him? For heaven's sake. In this country, you can't say what you think without people going after you. All right.
You can try.
Ruto allies want CS to resign. Critics say claims lifted the lid on abduction puzzle.
So do you want him to resign because now you can see that the emperor is naked, or that what he actually said is of an adverse nature? Which
Look, the abduction took place, for heaven's sake. We've been asking questions about it, the convenience, but it did take place. And this was his son, okay? Yeah. Any parent would use the means that they have at their disposal to look for their son. And simple fact.
Absolutely. And beyond that, and look, I did, and I still do, I call him out for doing this 7 months after the fact.
Yeah.
But the fact also remains that this thing happened. Number two, that he must have felt a significant amount of torture.
Yes, he did.
Before he was able to realize where his son was.
Yes.
What had actually happened.
Yes.
This is a parent. This is a parent
but it also tells you he understands what the disappearance means.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he did not want it for his son. They didn't pick him up to go for a walkabout in Uhuru Park.
Yes.
He knows that.
We've heard the horror stories of what happens to
he, being in government, would know a lot more than we do.
Exactly.
Everything that relates to the letter that we all read tells you he knew what could happen to his son, and he did not want that to happen. Which parent would want such a thing to happen?
And you know what? We can talk about conjecture here, we can talk about speculation, but I'm sorry, when it comes to a parent and their child, it is highly unlikely that the statement that Justin B. Muturi gave was a lie.
No.
Highly unlikely that the details that he put forth in that letter were made up or conjured. He was dealing with his son.
It's his child.
It is his child.
Yeah, it is his child.
His child. It's likely that what he said was untrue. So now to hear the attack dogs coming later and saying, "Oh, what you've done is that you've opened the lid on I don't know what are you talking about? Should you not be looking at the issues that have come out as a result of this?
Opened the lid, yes.
Yeah.
Has he spoken? Yes. Is in government? Yes. As a fellow member being in government, address the problem.
Address the issue.
Yeah, address the issue.
Mukuria, I'm still talking about Mukuria, a 25-year-old young man who disappeared on the 25th of June. His mother has been to every hospital, every police station, cannot find him.
Every morgue.
His mother cannot pick up the phone and call the president and say, "Where is my son?"
No.
His mother cannot do that.
All the people who were mentioned and who were called, these high-ranking officers who were called by Muturi, she doesn't even know them. Yet her son has not been found to date.
Remember, even when Justin was calling different departments, they said, "We do not have your son." That is the AG of the Republic of Kenya being told by the then Interior CS and now the DP Kithure Kindiki that we do not have your son.
Who is Mama Mukuria supposed to call?
Who's Mama Mukuria supposed to call? Go to a police station, talk to an OCPD.
Who is she supposed to call?
Exactly.
Those are the issues that we'd be looking at instead of the attack dogs coming out and saying, "Oh no, you're embarrassing the president. What kind of thing is this that you're doing?" For God's sake.
The questions, again, if we're going to take this thing further, we must bring in the immediate former DP, who has told us he knows about these people.
He should tell us who they are.
Why are you not telling us?
Yes.
So we know.
Tell us who they are.
Why are you not telling us? After all, there was a time when you were in charge of these very same operations.
Yes.
So you must know who these people are. So tell us.
Also, your background as a DO, I mean, you know the operations and how they take place.
My friend,
please
when
tell
he was
us.
deputy president, the Sufria revolution, it is him who was waking up at 5 and telling the whole country what he's going to do.
We are ready
It's
for
not
them.
me guessing. It is
him.
Just going by what he said. Yes.
No.
The person dangling that bone to his attack dogs.
You want to question what a parent would do for their child. That one you cannot question, Bana.
Hey.
Let's just go back when the current president was the DP. What was he telling the then president? Deal with me, achana na watoto wangu.
How low have we sunk? And I keep asking this question. What value do we place on human life? If you can answer that question, that is how you see certain things being done in the country when you're in a position of leadership or in a position that will demand some kind of accountability from you. What value do we put on human life? And that is what dictates when you can now start saying, we see the issue. It is hitting us in the face. But you decide to circumvent that and start talking about loyalty to the president. See, let's take a break because
yes,
it's doing me somehow and I don't like it. We're taking a break. We'll take a look at what's happening with traffic. Come back and continue with some details of these stories making the headlines at 20 minutes to 7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
This new year, say yes to a new world of entertainment on StarTimes. Enjoy the finest family entertainment on all your favorite channels. Recharge your subscription for 2 months and get upgraded to the next high bouquet for 2 months. Kick off the new school year with a world full of adventures on our kiddie channels. The excitement of sports action in the Carabao Cup, Bundesliga and La Liga. Who will be the new champions? Edge of the seat action on our blockbuster movies. Fresh heart-stopping premium telenovelas plus more spectacular entertainment on your StarTimes decoder. Download the StarTimes On app to enjoy unlimited entertainment anytime, anywhere. StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
All right, taking a look at what's happening with traffic this morning. We've not seen anything start to build up just yet. Maybe a little bit of traffic coming in on Jogo Road. I think the guys on Haile Selassie have decided, we're tired. This traffic will not be doing this kind of thing every day. So it's like this week they've said, maybe later. But this morning, not for now. So you can get onto Landis and then through towards Haile Selassie at the Kamkunji roundabout without a problem right now. On the Thika Superhighway, it's also looking pretty good until you come past then towards Survey, and then it's going to slow down a little bit as you get towards the Pangani underpass. You're going to go left, you're going to go right. Folks are deciding, and that's why you see that traffic. As you're coming off of Waiyaki Way, it also looks pretty good. Coming in towards Westlands, we'll see a little bit of traffic then on Waiyaki Way at some point, but for now it looks good. Let's talk through it. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Clock. Still looking at some of those stories making headlines. I want to look at where the buck stops.
Before you do that, let me just mention one last thing. Bang in the middle of the paper of the Star.
Right.
Raila party split over Ruto re-election bid. This is what they're saying. Party has heightened campaign, telling supporters that it won't be backing the president. That's it. Please continue.
Okay. The buck does stop here, and we've asked the question, who does the buck stop with when you're saying, who can help? And I just imagined if everybody had the phone number of the president, everybody whose child, whose brother, whose husband, whose sister, whose, daughter been abducted cannot be found over the last, I don't know. Maybe some of them have actually been killed. We don't know. But if those family members had the numbers of the president and were able to call him and say, please, let my child go, and the president then would be able to help, wouldn't that be a better situation?
No, it would not be a better situation for the simple reason, why should we be calling the president?
This is where I'm going. Because why do you have to get to that point when you call? Look at that. We're going to go over this again. Look at the number of people that Justin Muturi said he called. He called the PS Interior.
Called everybody.
He called the CS Interior. He called DCI. He called the IG of Police.
Man, he called everybody.
Jameni. He called everybody. Before at some point he said, you know what, this is it. I'm going to, because I'm in close proximity to the president, I called the president. President picked up the phone and calls and said, you have this boy? Yes, we have him. Can you, no question, what did he do? Where was he? You have him? Yes. Release him. Okay, within an hour, released. What if everybody had an opportunity to do that? And should it get to that point? Does it stop? Yes, it stops with the president. Because at the end of the day, when you raise that Bible, Constitution, right? When you raise the Bible, put your hand on the Bible, put the other one on the Constitution, whichever one you raise and whichever one you put your hand on. Everything concerning the nation is under you. Everything is actually under you. So now this is going to continue to be, but now when we see the issues that are coming out now, where people are saying, now we're going to ask you to resign. Why exactly are you asking somebody to resign? Because he opened up a Pandora's box? Because he now gave rise to many more questions that are coming out of speculation to be asked? It continues to be an issue. Let me give you some more details of this particular story. Right? Why the buck stops with Ruto on abductions and youthful critics. Desperately trying to secure his son's release from captivity, and distressed public service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi knew only one person could help, and that was the president. So in the statement that he gave, he painted a helpless man who tried everything to locate his son, abducted by then persons he said were National Intelligence Service agents. Now, never mind he was the Attorney General. You want to think about somebody who sells tomatoes on the side of the road. Never mind that he was the Attorney General. There was no help that he could get at that time. He was also a member of the National Security Council, which oversees all security organs. The situation exposes the dysfunctionality of top state organs. We would imagine the NSC operates in a coordinated and strategic way, said constitutional lawyer Bobby Mkangi. Kenyans set it up to ensure the entity's decisions are made in a collegiate manner, but the statement exposes the fact that the NSC is not working together. Muturi's position then is one in which countless parents have found themselves since last year's youth-led revolt over proposed tax hikes. They spend their days searching for their children and sleepless nights hoping their young ones abducted and held incommunicado for days on end would return home safely. I'm going to keep calling his name, Mukuria. I will keep asking. His mother has been to morgues. She's been to police stations. She's been to hospitals. She's been to friends' homes. She's been up country to see if her son maybe has found his way to the village. Cannot find this man. And the last time she heard that he was somewhere is he was being bundled into a police vehicle. Thereafter, somebody said maybe he was in an industrial area. Can't find him. Does she have access to the president to pick up the phone and call? The 3 men who were locked up in somewhere in Kitengela, did their family members have access to the president to call? The 6 gentlemen, for whom one is still missing, did they have access to did their families, the father, Mr. Bernard, who went into court and cried for his son, the mother who held her son so tightly when they were finally released, did they have access to the president to pick up the phone and say, please, release my son, release my daughter? Is that the point that the country needs to get to before somebody sits up and their ears are peaked to say, okay, guys, this cannot continue? What if you don't have access? Then are you damned?
Well, the truth of the matter is those who have access are extremely few. Statistically, they're almost irrelevant.
There you go.
If you take the population of Kenya to be 50 million plus, those who have access, leave the president aside, any officer, any individual who is a holder of these independent offices, how many people have access? You know, the discussion about abductions, access, role of NIS, all these questions, all these issues that arise must be asked again. All the security apparatus that we have in this country, what are their roles? Yes. And are the units within these very apparatuses, whose role is to abduct people? Or have they been mandated with that particular role? Because every once in a while, we do have situations where within the country, whether it was a commissioner of police or whoever's in charge, they would have a squad whose specific purpose was a very specific duty. For instance, eliminate Mungiki. What that meant was kill them.
Yes.
Okay? You report to talk about the body count. Okay. Now, are we saying that there are units within NIS? We understand them to be data gatherers, information gatherers, to understand and to underscore and to ensure the security and safety of the entire nation. So do they have a unit within NIS whose role is to abduct people? And if it's to abduct, what do you qualify? What do you need to do so that you can be abductable? What is it that you need to have done, said, shown? What is it? And beyond this, because we are focusing on abductions because very many young people are being abducted.
Yes. Yeah.
It is an issue. It's an even big issue because some of them are ending up dead. And we're asking, what on earth is happening? Now, the question we're asking is, if this is part of the role that NIS has, explain to us how this helps with our security. And if it's security, explain how these young people are a threat to the security of the nation.
And I think let's go even further in terms of under the police structure and the NIS, which is under the National Police Service, which is an independent institution. Under the law, what is abductions? Where does it fall under your own law? And even if it's you've abducted them, present them in court, because that is what the law says. The absence of these young people showing up, being taken to court, shows that within the police service, we have a criminal task force or a criminal unit that is doing someone's dirty business.
Well, you know something? Whenever you read, hear, and people speak about these happenings, what is truly unfortunate, if you look at the history of these things, it tells you that something about that state is beginning to unravel.
Yes.
Those who are charged with the management of that particular country, there's something that has escaped their grasp. They don't have a handle on all the things they should have a handle of. These are children, for heaven's sake. These are not some hardened, die-hard criminals that you're chasing, so you can justify whatever it is you're doing. These are extremely young people. Don't you think a message is actually being sent, and should you not listen to that message?
Mm-hmm.
When there's a threat to your security, there's a threat to your sovereignty as a nation state, we've often seen in history, you have no other business at that moment beyond securing those who are under threat, whether it is a border, whether it is individuals, whether it is a position. Leadership and governance have no business right now beyond securing the livelihoods and securities of Kenyans. No business. The true picture of a nation is the position of its most vulnerable at any one time. That's the true picture of the nation. If you don't want to deal with the picture, then perhaps that's a totally different discussion, but you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. If you want to be taken seriously, if you want to be given another stab at leadership, you have to take it seriously. And unfortunately, we're at a place where it doesn't look good at all. It really doesn't.
Can't.
It doesn't.
And there is no excuse or explanation that would warrant Kenyans being abducted and no explanation being given. There is no reason for any parent to go to a morgue to look for their child. It is wrong. And the buck stops with the big man because he is the appointing authority. Talk about NIS, he's the one who nominated him. Talk about DCI, same story. The buck stops with him. And even when Nairobi Senator Sifuna says he cannot come to tell us that he does not know, I agree with him, because where else do we go? If Muturi knew where to go to get his son be released, therefore he must give answers and explanation to where over 80 young people in this republic are.
I'm going to turn it up just a little bit, because if we're saying that it's just an abduction issue that is actually getting people to have their knickers in a twist in this country, it isn't. We will close down principles warn over delayed 48 billion shillings funding. Just when you think that you're getting out of the water, you're not. Kenya Secondary School Heads Association Chairman Willie Kuria has raised the alarm over the dire financial challenges facing schools due to delays in the release of capitation funds by government. Kuria has warned that without the disbursement of 48 billion by the end of this week, schools may be forced to cease operations. 2 weeks after reopening, many institutions are struggling with unpaid bills and disconnected utilities. Kuria said, "We are at a crossroads. If action is not taken before the end of this week, schools will likely have to shut down." He revealed that some institutions are already facing legal action over unpaid bills owed to suppliers. He says this is an emergency. Some schools have pending cases in court threatening their relationships with suppliers over arrears running into the billions of shillings. Despite assurances from Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba to release the 48 billion shillings capitation as soon as last week, no money has hit the school accounts. Well, I don't know if we were asleep or awake, but the Treasury Cabinet Secretary, John Buddy, said maybe 31st of January. I don't think that's tomorrow. But you know what? While all this is happening, a special report is being sent out here that schools are bending the rules to charge exorbitant fees. So we're looking at a chicken-egg situation. What do you expect them to do when capitation is not being released? Investigations by the Standard have uncovered a troubling trend of public secondary schools, blatantly disregarding government-imposed fee caps, forcing struggling parents to bear unauthorized financial burdens. It's been revealed widespread breaches in the fees charged by public secondary schools, with principals demanding exorbitant amounts far beyond the legally established limits. Shockingly, some of the country's top national schools are among the offenders, defying government warnings against illegal charges. A school fee structure obtained by the Standard for Mangu High School shows that the institution is charging 99,636 as annual fees in 2025, a clear violation of the cap of 53,554 set for national schools. Additionally, parents or guardians of Form 3 students are required to pay an extra 11,200 for a new set of uniforms. This contravenes ministry guidelines, which stipulate the parents should not be compelled to purchase uniforms from the schools. So look at that example. When you're paying easily 45,000 shillings above what the cap is for national schools, okay? So some of them have really pushed the envelope here, but you have to ask the question, what should they do if they don't receive the capitation from schools? Because it's subsidized by government, and the subsidy comes in form of government sending money to these schools to be able to do this, and then you as parents pay a little bit. Now, are they bending the law? Are they breaking the law? Yes. Do they have a choice? The answer to that question is, do they? When capitation doesn't come, what are they supposed to do? So, I mean, it's a whole pressure cooker situation here, and it doesn't look pretty, guys. It doesn't look pretty at all from where we're sitting.
Ndu, when we talk about matters to do with capitation that needs to go to schools, we'll go back to the budget. And education enjoys the highest budget in this country. When we talk about the budget making process, this is monies that have been budgeted for. And even the school calendar, it is the same government that releases the school calendar, which begs the question, by the time you are releasing the school calendar, the money needs to follow that exercise. So question is, why bring out the calendar if you're not going to disburse these funds to go to schools? I mean, it is common sense or logic, unless common sense is not so common.
Actually, the people who are charged with drawing out and planning, they are not responsible for the money getting to schools. They get the money from somewhere else.
Yes.
And a lot of the times it's you're told this is what's going to happen. See, their job is to make sure the calendar, that's their job.
Yes.
Money comes from somewhere else. And clearly, the somewhere else is where the problem is. Now, if we're told the money was released and it's with the Ministry of Education, and then it hasn't been released to schools, that discussion will be different. But this is not what we're discussing here. That money hasn't gone anywhere. It is still where it usually is. Yes. So even as we're discussing it, I sometimes wonder, when we talk about this problem, remember, we are talking about a subject matter that has very, very many hiccups. This so-called capitation, the arrears, with every passing term, we add on to what was already there.
Yes.
So it's not as though we complete it. No, we just keep piling up the arrears.
60 billion last 5 years.
Yes, just keep piling it. That is money that ought to have gone to school. It didn't go to schools. Okay? And we keep talking about giving out more capitation, and yet the arrears hasn't quite been sorted out.
Nope.
Okay? So, even as we have this discussion about education, let's pause for a second and ask, what is it that should have been done that now cannot get done?
So you mean even if you take Kenya and shake it like this, you can't find 40 billion? I'm asking. If you shake upside down, turn it upside down, shake everything, coins fall out of the pocket, you can't find 48 billion?
We can. We can.
I'm just asking.
We can. The the discussion about education gets to the heart of the problem that bedevils us as a country. The question of where does our money actually go? Because even with the shortage, even with the capitation not being given in its totality, unfortunately, there are very many demons that surround the education sector. One, schools that actually don't exist and yet receive capitation. Students who don't exist within these schools who don't exist and yet get capitation. Students who exist in schools that have that are registered and exist, and those who are supposed to reside in these schools and yet do not exist. that's a tip of the iceberg of the problems that we have. From the previous government, when desks were supposed to have been built to cater for the CBC, monies that were allocated for school or were told for putting up classes, the previous administration, we are back here again and we're being told more money has been allocated for what previously money had been allocated for. So you want to ask your question, where are we with all these matters?
Question. It's 7 a.m.
Good morning. This is the news wire. I'm Lam Obaga. MPs will today cut short their long recess to consider, amongst others, reports on President William Ruto's nominees. The lawmakers who are on a 2-month recess will consider committee reports on 3 cabinet secretaries' nominees who are set to join the broad-based government. The 3 are Mutai Kagwe for Agriculture, William Kabogo, ICT, and Lee Kinyanjui Trade. In case the House rejects any of the names, the Speaker will notify the appointing authority, who will then submit other names for considerations. MPs will also consider reports on nominees to the Public Service Commission, as well as individuals who are nominated to represent the country in various foreign countries. President William Ruto has revealed Kenya could partner with the United Arab Emirates to extend the standard gauge railway line from Naivasha to Uganda, abandoning China. This emerged after Ruto held talks with the UAE Investment Minister Mohammed Hassan on Tuesday. The head of state noted the SGR will also be expanded to South Sudan to enhance regional connectivity among East African community nations. On Monday, Ruto left the country for the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week Summit, which runs until Saturday. State House spokesperson Hussein Mohammed said the Kenya Kwanza Alliance leader will attend the high-level forum that convenes world leaders to advance the global sustainability agenda. The memorial service for Kenya National Commission on Human Rights Chair Roslyn Odede will be held today at 2 p.m. at All Saints Cathedral in Nairobi. Odede's family said the cortege will leave Nairobi for Kisumu tomorrow morning, where a second memorial service will be held at St. Stephen's Church. The family stated that thereafter the cortege will depart for the family home in Roma Village, Uyoma Katwenga, for an overnight vigil at the home. Commission Vice Chairperson Raymond Nyeri, in a statement, said Odede passed away after a short illness. ODM supporters in Malindi constituency, Kilifi County, are urging the party's officials to announce as early as now who will be their flag bearer in the 2027 general elections. Led by Kenza Ondiek, the supporters say the move will give its members a good opportunity to prepare before the elections. According to them, many of the party's supporters are at a crossroads, especially after ODM leader Raila Odinga announced his intention to run for the African Union Commission chairmanship.
ODM mwenye alikuwa anashikilia ni mheshimiwa Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga sasa ukiangalia mambo na concentrate nao sana ni mambo ya EU. Na kama atakuwa amefanikiwa kwenda EU, what next? Ile tunataka kufikia sasa tujue kwamba nani ambao wanatafuta ipeperusha bendera. Manake tunataka tuwajue na mapema. Kufikia hivi sasa hatujui kwamba ODM William Ruto ndiye atawania chama cha ODM ama atakuwa bado UDA. Manake ukiangalia hivi saa hii wana ODM baadhi wako kwa serikali. Kwa hivyo ni tujue na mapema sisi kama wafuasi wa chama. Tujue kwamba tuna mtu wetu kando na William Ruto.
At the same time, the supporters have raised concerns that ODM may lose its popularity if it does not announce its candidate to challenge President William Ruto in the elections as early as now.
Tuchipange na candidate wetu. Tuache mambo ya kuwawanyika kusema wengine wanasema tunasupport William Ruto, wengine wanasema kwamba tutakuwa na mtu wetu. Sisi kile tunataka ni tuwe na mtu wetu wa kutafuta hicho kiti. Manake tukisema kwamba tutaunga mkono serikali iliyo mamlakani, wananchi wa chini kusema kweli bila kufichana, hii serikali kidogo imewachosha. Sasa kama chama cha ODM kitaamua kwamba kina support hii serikali kwa mamlakani, kitapoteza viti vingi. Chama cha ODM kipige mahesabu yake na mapema na tuwe na candidate wetu ambaye atashindana na mheshimiwa William Samoei Ruto.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, a quick look at what's happening on the roads this morning at a few minutes after 7 o'clock, and traffic is moving without too much of an issue. Coming right around towards the Pangani Tunnel, there is some traffic there coming off a Thika Superhighway, and also from Garden City out towards the whole survey area. Traffic is starting to get to bumper status in some parts. Not looking too bad on Landis as you get towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. And traffic coming in from Ring Road and Ngara is flowing smoothly towards the city. Kangunda Road has a little bit of traffic as you try to touch on Outer Ring. Coming out of Westlands looks good. We will see a build-up of traffic on Limuru Road, and that seems to already be starting, coming in from Thigiri Ridge towards Gigiri and then out towards the Thika Superhighway on one side and Westlands on the other. On Uhuru Highway, getting into the city, that looks pretty good as well. Mombasa Road not doing too badly, and Outer Ring then leading towards Embakasi, North Airport Road. The Cabanas interchange is also starting to clog up. We're keeping an eye on all of this with you and for you. Do let us know what is happening in your neck of the woods as we keep things moving this morning. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. And getting into it today, yes, we know 94.4 is having a technical issue this morning for folks who are trying to log on to radio. That's being attended to. But remember that our live streams are up on YouTube and on Facebook, and want to say welcome as well to our audiences on KTN. As we get into Kenya's biggest conversation for the second hour, we already have our guest in the studio, and in the name of Kipruto Kirwa, he's here with us today, and we're looking at a number of things as we get into the conversation. Cabinet nominations, cabinet vetting, that has all been taking place. Wanakira, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well.
Happy New Year.
It is true we've not seen each other this year.
Yeah, that's true.
Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, thank you.
They normally ask then, how is the year taking you?
Well, I think it's too early to make a very clear analysis of the year. But of course, we are doing land preparation in Kitale with the hope that we are going to start planting at the advent of the rains on the 22nd of March or thereabout. And everything seems to be moving well.
We know that the rains will start on the 22nd of March.
Yeah, they do it around our place. It's the equinox. So usually about the 20th, you should actually be doing dry planting. By 22nd, the rains will come. And as you know, in 1 week that you lose after the onset of the rains, you lose 10% of expected yields. That's the way it is.
Wow.
And that's the rule.
It's like a science. Well, it is a science, I guess.
It is a science. Thank you.
One should go to Kitale.
I'm telling you.
The place is beautiful.
I hear.
Beautiful.
I hear it's beautiful.
I visited it. That's why I'm speaking thus.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
I'm extending my invitation to you, especially around May when everything is green.
You should be careful. We'll take you up on the invitation. We'll take you up on the invitation.
That, as long as you remind me, I'll be willing.
Sawa.
Asante.
Let's tell you about something that's happening with young people in the country and about how they're able to match their skills and talents to opportunities through the KCB 2G Jury program.
Yeah, so KCB has realized that there is a problem in the country which is all about unemployment. And if I could just ask, how many numbers, top of your head, do we have entering the labor market, unemployed youth every year, annually?
Well, I may not have the numbers exactly, but I know it's a huge number, right from every institution, whether those who are leaving primary school, secondary school, tertiary institutions, including various universities, the numbers are mind-boggling.
Yeah, so they stand at actually 1 million, which is between the ages of 18 to 34, which is 12.7%, the numbers that you're talking about. And even the government realizes that it's a problem. Remember, the manifesto will create 1 million jobs, and it is the exact number that we are addressing here. But KCB says, all right, we realize there's a problem, but you're coming in with a solution. And the solution they're bringing in is to make sure that those who dropped out of school and have some skill, they are upskilled on that. And those that also went to school, they do not have jobs, they take them in back to class and train them. After that, they're given certificates through NITA, which will enable them, first of all, be able to apply their trade, improve on their skill, and ensure that they are entrepreneurs, or even if they're going to apply for jobs, it is a matter of they have certification to do that. KCB says that the combined vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship in making sure that these young people are actually good at what it is they do. And KCB says, for this information, you go SCT, kcbgroup.com/foundation.
Yes, you do. And you will get a lot of information about it because it's, if there's something that we sort of like fell back on, is ensuring that we have skilled labor in technical fields in the country. And it's something that we need to do a lot of work in. And what KCB is doing is something that the government ought to put more effort in. Yes.
Especially realigning policy decisions to make sure that whatever is coming, there is an offtake in the market.
Absolutely.
I have in mind issues like various projects at the constituency level, where everybody is a mason, and yet they don't have basic skills. And yet there are people who have done masonry up to a certain level who should be absorbed at that particular stage.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, that's way to go into it. And you're in the hot seat this morning. And before we get into some of these hot matters, let's talk about skills, because we know there's a whole vetting program going on right now. CT is going to welcome you the proverbs from Uganda this week.
Yes, it's a landlocked country in East Africa, neighbored by Kenya in the east, Sudan in the north, DRC in the west, Rwanda and TZ. An interesting country, this one. The features that I liked about it, the one which actually caught my attention were two.
Yes.
Bird watching, the variety of birds that you find in Uganda because of the rich forests that they have. They're not like us who just cut everything in sight. They tend to keep their trees. Yes, as we do. Everything must be charcoal at some point or the other. And then we don't replace it. But that's us. But
that's true.
In addition to that, they have this amazing feat. They have lions, yes, but these are tree climbing lions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Something else that we need to know about Uganda, while in Kenya 80% of our land is semi-arid, in Uganda it's almost the other way around.
Yes, it is.
80% of their land is fertile.
Arable. Yes, it is.
Yes.
So, and that is why even during the darkest and bleakest times, the country could feed itself.
That's it.
So something we seem to have a problem with, but that's a discussion for another day. Yes. The proverb. A dog with a bone in its mouth cannot bite you.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. And I think we can have a lot of parallels even in our political situation. Some of the individuals who are biting the government the other day, when they were given small positions in government, they have kept quiet. Or they are singing praises for the government.
There's something in their mouth.
There's something in their mouth, regardless of the value.
He said regardless of the
value, because at times it's a bone that is dry, but because there's still some
remnants
of some feeling of nyama, they think there is a lot of meat inside.
Or some smell of the soup.
So at times when somebody is making a lot of noise, give him something to keep him busy.
Yeah. And he'll shut up. Well, at least temporarily.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess that's a good place to jump off into this conversation, Kirwa, this morning. And here we are, yet again, going through cabinet nominations, the vetting process. A parliamentary select committee sat over the last couple of days, and then I think today we're starting to see some, decisions coming out of that. We gave the, illusion of a bicycle that's wrapped in wrapping paper around the wheels and the handlebars. You can see what it is, but you don't. But somebody's still asking you to guess what is, behind the wrapping. And that's how we kind of feel with cabinet nominations now, and then into the appointment process. Even though we do see sometimes the hard questions being asked, we're almost sure that these folks who've been nominated will be given the green light. Let's get your introductory insights into currently what's happening, what it actually does mean for the political process with the most recent nominations we've seen.
You know, the whole process starts with the decimation of institutional capacity of various aspects of our country. Of course, you know the president at the beginning of time, where the beginning of time is after elections 2022. He made sure that he emasculated all the political parties and brought them under one roof. And after that, of course, he extended this emasculation into Parliament, ensuring that Parliament does not have the capacity to think on its own feet or even make decisions at variance with the position that it takes. The third position was, of course, to bring in various political entities that we used to refer to as dynasties, starting with the Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and of course a visit to Shaweri. All those is a way of trying to galvanize everything around one person. And therefore, if there is any nomination, it's just a charade. It is not that I'm doubting the capacity of the guys who are being nominated as ministers. They are very brilliant people, they are very good people. But the nomination is as good as the decision that has been taken by the president. Of course, in the old constitutional dispensation, the president used to announce, appoint, and swear in any member of our society that he felt could fit the bill of being a member of the cabinet. And thereafter, you join the cabinet, or you join your colleagues in Parliament, and therefore that is where your capacity used to be tested. But in the new constitutional dispensation, it is very clear that the president, if he respected the other institutions, would also be careful on who he chooses. We would also be careful on the kind of background of the individuals he has chosen, and also make sure that those individuals fit not only the requirements, but also the critical mass of their own capacity, their integrity, and their ability to perform.
Waziri, I hear you saying essentially that the president has taken what he can from each and every entity that we speak of, whether it's political parties, whether it is parliament, whether it is cabinet, and essentially run roughshod and used those for his own personal gain. Whether we're talking about an election coming in 2 years, whether we're talking about the perception of power, you're essentially saying that he has usurped power from every possible place to his advantage.
Yes, that's exactly what he has done. Remember when there was this Rigathi Gachagua impeachment, they moved with a lot of speed, almost at night. When does government print a close? At night, were Tangula gazettes that he has already been impeached, and the same night, Amason Kingi gazettes in the Senate that there's going to be a meeting at 9:30 or 9 o'clock thereabout for purposes of dealing with that particular issue. An issue which should have taken about 60 days or even 72 days. It took less than 14 days to dispense with. And on Saturday, even the judiciary was involved in what I could call kangaroo court. When some of these things are done, in the full glare of the public, and we keep quiet, I feel we have had enough of this regime. We may not say many things, but what we need to tell the President, William Ruto, is to realize that he's here today. He will not be there tomorrow. And some of the things he's doing, they will follow him all the way to his place in Sigei or wherever he will be. That's my worry.
President William Ruto preceded you in the agriculture docket.
You succeeded.
Succeeded you
yes.
in the agriculture docket.
Yes.
Now, when one looks at the way he has gone about managing his politics, there's something to admire there. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. When somebody understands the possible roadblocks he can encounter and circumvents them, it means he has forethought. We may not like the outcome. We may even see that what is being done will be harmful, but he has forethought it. But it also tells you something else about those who have been in positions of power and within government, that the allure of power in government is something that the political class in this particular country cannot withstand. It's the one thing that when it is offered to you, you forget everything else that you previously talked about as being sacrosanct, and then you justify the position you've then taken. Am I speaking out of turn, or am I saying something that we see every day?
Yes, we are saying something that we see, and it is informed by a number of factors, one of which we have not institutionalized various apparatus of state. We've allowed them to be around the personality, or we have made it convenient to take it around the community. That's why even the appointments that the president has done, he has been visiting the leaders of those regions, and therefore he allows him to make a decision on who is to be appointed. Whether it's directly the 4 or 3 appointees or 5 that come from Mount Kenya was with tacit approval of President Uhuru Kenyatta, anybody can guess. Because that is the way I see it. We seem to be taking a social problem, a problem that is supposed to be financial governance, and we give a political solution. That is my worry.
And is it really a solution? Because a political step is taken, and we are the ones who baptize it as a solution. Because even if you amalgamate people from different parties and under the name of what are we calling a national broad-based government. We've had a broad-based government right from the onset of independence. When Kadu folded and we had Kanu, that was broad-based. When the colonialists sort of like said they were going away and we got self-rule and so forth. These are handshakes we've had all along the way. With bless you, when we said, look, this single party thing isn't working for us, and let's get into multipartism. That again was an understanding. Now, but with all this understanding, it appears that it's like a poison chalice. Once someone has had a taste of what it means to be in a position of power, the worst thing that can happen is for them to be out of it. So the moment there is a sign, an indication, a come hither sign, and it's like there's a scramble. And it is very shocking if someone actually thinks, and to understand it, you only need to look at people who had power and suddenly don't have it. The change is monumental. It's a complete shift.
Yes, that's true.
What then does it say of political leadership? Or what does it say about our politics and how we have determined we must practice it? And does it give anyone who is studying it hope that politics in Kenya represent a certain degree of moral rectitude, or it gives, should moral rectitude feature in politics? Yes, it should. Or does it give anybody the indication that there are things which, when they are said by people in leadership, that you can expect them to be done? Because our lived experience is that the complete opposite happens. Yes.
Well, I'm happy nowadays that with the advent of the public taking that space, the official opposition is now the public, is no longer in the political realm. Having taken that space, even some of us, really all of us are potential job seekers. Given the fact that
that is a very honest statement. Yes.
But at times we resist because we fear what would be the avalanche of problems visiting us. Of course, I would easily be tempted when you see there is a appointee for Ghana, High Commissioner to Ghana, has refused. Then I say, now with my master's in international studies, this is a job I can take so easily, and I'll be so happy. But I say, what will they say in that space? So I think that for me, that is a positive note, that the public is outraged enough that yes, if this is your stand, Kirwa, that stand we must see it sustainably, and we hope everybody else will be held to account.
And but when you talk about what the repercussions will be, they call it kusalimiwa on the internet, and everyone seems to be afraid of it, other than those who are actually going for these positions. But that aside, we talk about the nomination of cabinet secretaries into office, and we know the process that is in the constitution. But it appears as though the decision has already been made by the appointing authority. That means whatever happens in Parliament is just a PR exercise. Therefore, how do we, as the official opposition, as the Republic, make sure that the law is actually followed?
Which opposition are you referring to, Dennis?
The public.
Yeah.
The public. Because the opposition that does exist,
the public isn't quite the public, is it? Because the public also have people they follow.
Oh, yeah.
The public have people they listen to.
Yes.
And they listen to very intently. So when we say public, which public are we speaking about?
Yeah.
You see, and what does it say when you support? Okay, why don't we just look at live examples? Okay. ODM donates a few people to the cabinet.
So-called experts.
Yeah, okay, they're donated. And we hear them speaking, we do understand the experts. Yes. As to what exactly the experts say now, that's something you can debate at great length. Okay, but they're experts, okay? Yeah. So we're all broad-based. Then ODM goes into double speak. ODM is actually not in the government. Yes. ODM has donated, that's the word I'm using, so that we can stabilize the government given the problems that we're having. But ODM remains independent, okay?
That's what they say.
Okay? Then comes in two people who are in Jubilee, because William Kabogo was not in Jubilee. He had his own party.
Yeah.
Tuendelee Mbele, Tuko Pamoja, something of that sort.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, that's his own independent party. Yeah. But every one of those come from the mountain. Okay? So what are we saying? And yet, we have an immediate former deputy president who is spitting fire and speaking brimstone daily about the misdeeds of the government that just a few months ago he was part of.
Okay. So then what was your question, Dennis?
My question is, with all these matters to do with the appointment, there is a process in the Constitution which should be vetting, which should go to Parliament. But Parliament appears as though they've also ceded power because they're being controlled. Their television sets, the guy with the remote is changing the channels as he wishes. So in terms of these appointments meeting the requisite standards as enshrined in the law, how do we as Kenyans, those complaining of who need the change, should make sure that we achieve that which is in the Constitution?
I think, Dennis, we need to improve on building institutions instead of building individuals. Even listening to the questions that were asked to all those nominees, for me, they are irrelevant. Because you see, like my good friend Mutai Kagwe, somebody I have a lot of respect for, it's not about carrying coffee on your bag or being in 4K club that you can also deal with issues of agriculture. You do not even have to have a lot of experience in agriculture. You just need to have a helicopter view of the ministry to realize that in that ministry there are technical people. And in that technical aspect of those people, there are those who are researchers, there are those who are extension officers, there are those who are dealing with land development, there are those who are soil scientists, and there are also those who in livestock production and various other aspects. Apart from that, there is also the component of human resource capacity building in those ministries. And what you need to do is to have that helicopter view and to see how you can make use of every piece of human resource in the ministry. Allow me just to give a small example. When I was the Minister for Agriculture, 2003, 2008, when we went there, we realized that the ministry had very low morale. And I tried to understand what was going on. Then I realized the main challenge was the human resource component. There were some people who had been in the same job group for 13 years. And yet it's supposed to be every 2 years or 3 years, you are reviewed and you have a chance to move from one job group to the other. It may not be a lot of money, it may be 2,000 shillings, but that's a lot of money for a civil servant. And also the fact that you are not in the same grade for 13 years. When that was done by DPM and everybody, some of the officers literally cried tears of joy because we have unbottled what they believed they were going to retire on the same job group. What did it do? By the time we are doing the first performance contracting by the government of the Republic of Kenya, my ministry was number one. because we did not give them more money. We just unbottled what we felt was the main problem. So at times when you ask questions about how suitable are you to run that particular ministry, then we give mundane answers that I used to have a laptop in 1991. Ministry of ICT has nothing to do with laptop.
Yes.
Technology has moved on, and we need to deal with issues of how do we have the complement that is required and make use of the people in that particular ministry. In any ministry, the first priority is the people, the officers working in those ministries.
I want to. It seems as though the deeper fissures here of these issues, when we talk about these nominations being of a heavy political nature,
yes.
When we talk about the possibility of power having been usurped from Parliament in terms of this being a rubber stamping exercise, because I mean, you know, a dog is a dog, call it anything else, but it's what it is. The individuals who are being taken through this process, who are being asked these questions and then having to give these answers of, you know, my mother had a poultry and I don't know what else, and then also being asked to give, you know, their net worth. They go through, the truth be told, they go through a rigorous process, being asked questions that truthfully don't matter. Do you think they as individuals realize the responsibility then that is on their shoulders to deliver a development agenda off the back of something that is purely political?
My worry is that it is what the French call fait accompli. By the time somebody is nominated by the president, unless the president changes his mind midstream, like that of Stella Soy, the performance is not really anything that is to go by. I've seen some of them who should actually be rejected by the committee, and even in the first round of half an hour, because they don't seem to know a bit about any of the ministries. But there you are, they go through, then they become part of public ridicule, because the president does not believe any other institution ought to operate independent of him. He believes he knows everything, he's an expert in every field of study. You remember the other day when he was talking about vaccination in West Pokot, he said, me as a scientist. You know, a scientist is not all-round scientist. You are either a scientist in land development, a scientist akin to issues of livestock diseases, but you cannot be a scientist who knows everything. And you cannot be telling us about vaccination, which is like marubaini, that is for all diseases. It must be specific to disease. Is it anthrax? It is ECF? Or what kind of disease are you going to tell us about vaccination? So the president has misled the public. The other day he was saying, as a father, we are all fathers. And when you don't want your children to be abducted. And now he's spending issues on the character of the children. Well, we know the character of the children is a reflection of society. You cannot start lambasting parents that your children should not be doing caricature. When technology came, technology is to be used for all manner of things, including if you are not happy with the president, you depict him the way you see him.
Yes.
So the president should not be worried that the children have negative character. The children are a mirror of our society. You remember there were certain awkward moments, even including the time of President Mwai Kibaki. But there was no caricature, not because there was no technology. People respected him. And if anything went amiss, they knew that is a slip of the tongue or there is a problem that we understand. But the current president, because even young people know that he's a liar. The other day I went to another office. Then I told, have we met before?
Yes.
The child said, no, but you look familiar. He told me, Uongo. So I got actually shocked because being a Kalenjin, I thought now we are lambasted on the same brush that we lie. Of course, eventually I knew I had met the person somewhere. I don't want to say the name.
Let's take a break at this point, because I think now we're getting into some of these issues whereby you need to actually have, a spotlight on them, and to say that if we look at cabinet and the way in which it is, constituted. These individuals have a duty to deliver development agenda for government. But if now what you're saying is that, essentially these nominations are political in nature, trying to get as much in terms of support on your side, then what happens to Kenya in terms of its development agenda if you're being selected to do something purely politically? We will take a break and come back. Former Agriculture Minister Kipruto Kirwa is our guest this hour, and we're looking at some of these issues when it comes to nominations of cabinet, their vetting and the eventual appointment. What does it portend for the country? We'll take a break and look at weather and traffic, and we'll be back right after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hi everyone, you may have heard about Cradle's first annual Study Abroad conference happening on January 18th in Nairobi and on January 27th in Eldoret. Can you tell us what students can expect?
University of Limerick is one of the large government-led, research-led universities in the Republic of Ireland. 97% of our graduates are in employment upon graduation. All of our undergraduate students do a 6 to 9 month work placement as part of their programme, and it's paid and it's in an area relevant to your studies. And our most popular programmes are in science, engineering, business, humanities, health sciences, and arts, humanities and law.
That sounds fantastic. So everyone make sure to attend Cradle's first annual Study Abroad conference at Gallant Mall Parklands in Nairobi and at Eka Hotel in Eldoret. Make sure to register by visiting www.cradle.com, that's CRAYDEL.com, or call 0799 000 444, 0799 000 444.
The weather with SpiceFM.
And the weather this hour, even as the sun slowly creeps in Nairobi, highs of 23 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. In Kakamega County, highs of 30 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. In Mombasa, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. And in the lakeside city of Kisumu, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 17 degrees. Across borders to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, highs of 22 degrees and lows of 7 degrees. Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 27 degrees. And in Johannesburg, South Africa, highs of 25 degrees and lows of 15 degrees. And in London, United Kingdom, highs of 10 degrees and lows of 7 degrees. And in China, highs of 4 degrees and lows of negative 4 degrees. That is the weather these are.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, we're knocking on traffic hour and we're starting to see that build up. Let's take a look at the Eastern Bypass. Traffic coming through towards North Airport Road, touching on Outer Ring and then out towards the Cabanas interchange. That continues. And also looking at some traffic coming off of Thika Superhighway. It's still heavy past the Outer Ring Junction. Kiambu Road is also piling up. Limuru Road. All this coming in from Gigiri. And also then we go towards Wayaki Way where there's some traffic as you approach the expressway exits. Also, we're looking at traffic then coming in on Ngong Road, and that's busy coming in all the way from Naivasha Road, touching on Ngong Road, and then out towards the CBD. It's also building on Langata Road this morning, quite heavy coming in past the barracks, in from Galleria, and then through towards Aerodrome. Okay, so let's keep an eye on this. We're knocking on traffic hour. As we step into it, let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
22 minutes to the top of the hour. Kipruto Kirwa is our guest this hour. We're looking at a lot of these nominations, and I really have to ask this question as we are going this. I mean, alluded it to it before. But, you know, if the development of the nation and the development of governance and leadership is top of the agenda, which it should be, one would assume that that's what it was, how then do you find a nexus between what you want to do politically and what you should do from a governance point of view. We know that it's very difficult to divide or to separate these positions from the politics of it all. But can you have a balance? Can you strike a balance? And if individuals are being chosen purely for political alignments, how do you expect they will fulfill the agenda?
I think the main problem is that when the president was campaigning to get his first term in office, he spent a lot of time looking for strategies to make sure that he wins the election. And some of the promises he made were beyond the capacity of any government to perform.
Such as?
Issues like he was going to do a number of things within 100 days. He was going to do all these within this particular period. Then he also realized that the resources were not as much as he had already promised the public. So in the process, he was forced to break some of the promises or make some of the statements that were not in tandem with the reality of the day. The other issue that I still believe that we can still advise him is when a president gives an order, he should have been able to check all the other aspects of it so that his orders flow smoothly. Otherwise, he should not talk unless he's sure the processes are right. So in the process, the public lost trust in the presidency and in him as a person. And when they lost trust, so all these measures he's been trying to do is to try to regain the trust that the people have lost in him. So I sympathize with him, but it's not about sympathy. It's about what is it that he can do. What he can do is to be open to the public that Kenyans, I promised you 1, 2, 3. I'm only able to deliver 1, 2. And Kenyans will forgive him. Why? Because the resources are not as much as I thought. For every 100 shillings I collect, 70 shillings will go towards paying the debt. And we're only left with 30 shillings to manage all the affairs of the nation. And that's why, while I had said I was not going to do borrowing externally, I've had to borrow because I cannot make ends meet. It needs to be more truthful than bring people and crowd the situation in a way that some of these people are just there for the next 2 years. Some of them will move back to the opposition or to the government that is going to be formed after this election, or some of them will actually ditch him. I can see there are going to be a lot of dynamics, just like the year 2002, whereas those who are in government for the greatest time left the government on the eve of elections, and that's how Kanu lost in the year 2002. Yeah.
Now, Waziri, when you talk about, you mentioned something to do with the people who are in these offices, and it is a political exercise.
Yeah.
But at the back of it, as Ndu alludes, is all about performance and delivering to the people of the Republic.
Yes.
And here we've asked, in terms of government using its resources and identifying people who are better placed to deliver the government agenda. That does not seem to be the case, because it is you come so that I get support, but in terms of delivery for the Kenyans, we do not see that. What would be the best way to go around this and making sure that the people in these offices are there to deliver and not play politics?
Well, I think the first thing could have been to have the right people in the right places. You needed somebody who is well heeled in issues of public service. Kibaki survived with Mudhaura, having, of course, started with Dr. Saliko Sigei for the first 6 months, 2003. And in June of that year, he appointed Francis Mudhaura as head of public service. He stayed with him for the entire period that he served. What was unique about Mudhaura? You as a minister, if you went to see Mudhaura, you take a very nice notebook, a black book, write everything that you've requested, and in the intervening period, he will be able to tell you this has been done, this cannot be done because of 1, 2, 3, so that the government is in communication. Now, when you bring somebody who was dealing with issues of procurement, he thinks everything is about procuring people into government. He doesn't realize that it's about delivery of services. So the whole problem is crowded by the fact that head of public service today is somebody who thinks that because they're in government, everybody must listen to them. But Mudhaura was a humble public servant who is a diplomat by any stretch of imagination, who also understood government. And therefore he knew the role of a minister, the role of various institutions of government, and how to manage and coordinate. Because head of public service basically is the coordinator of public service. And he needs to take the pulse rate of every department. For example, if they wanted to appoint somebody like Muga, and is an officer in my ministry, they would inform me that we want to elevate him to a certain position, and we need somebody in that particular position he has been holding. And they will tell you before they announce. And they tell you, okay, do you have any individuals or any names to suggest? You suggest the names. By the time Muga is being elevated, somebody else of my choice or somebody we've agreed with, the head of public service. But today, even ministers, and you've heard of them, that cassette notices of even directors or various parastatals are done in State House. They just see names. They don't know some of those people. Remember, the position in the Constitution and in various statutes, the President appoints chairman of parastatals. I had 27 parastatals in my ministry. And of the 27, I give 2 names. They tell me give 2 names. I give that of Dennis and Muga. Then the president picks one, which means these are my appointees.
Yes.
Then all the directors, we sit down with my assistant ministers, with the officers in the ministry. We look at the CVs of various individuals. Then we appoint 5 or 7, whatever is the case, for parastatals that the minister has the authority to appoint.
And that is not happening now?
It's not happening.
Okay.
And today, the other thing that I feel the president needs to be assisted, and even in future, if he was to be part of any government, is to say these advisors to the president, whether it's on economy or anything, should be at the level of the minister. So that they advise the minister for the time being in charge of that particular portfolio. So that the minister goes to see the president to advise the president once he has been fully advised. Because the principal advisor to the president is the vice president or the deputy president today. And every minister is advisor to the president insofar as that docket is concerned. Now, if you have 2 advisors advising you on the Ministry of Agriculture, then I arrive in the afternoon, I'm tired, I've come from Kitale, and I come to you and you say you know more than I do just because you sat with your advisors in the morning. And these advisors don't know the practical reality on the ground. When I joined the Ministry of Agriculture, I had this notion, because I was coming from the street, that the officers there are lazy, they are not serious. After 8 weeks, I realized that they are they're highly trained, because in my ministry at that time, we had 90 PhDs in various parastatals and those directly in the ministry, and people with master's degrees and various other qualifications. Then I realized I have a huge human resource in the ministry. I need to spend more time in the ministry. And as if that was not enough, they gave me all the people who are seen to be Kanu, whether it was a former provincial commissioner of Eastern, district commissioners. Then I realized I have a human resource here which can assist me run the ministry. So we used to sit down every Tuesday with 5 of us, the PS, Director of Agriculture, my 2 assistant ministers, and we funnel out. Then the technical people will deal with the issues, give us feedback for the next Tuesday. That's how to run a ministry. Allow the minister to be flexible, and if he's intelligent or she is intelligent enough, they will be able to give you better results than you as a president trying to run every ministry from State House. You don't have that capacity.
Do I hear you to be saying that what we see is a situation where the entire administration of government has been politicized?
Yes.
So essentially, whatever it is that our ministries or the ministries that exist within the executive, that they cannot actually function because of the political nature, one, of the appointments and the political expectations.
Yeah. That's the whole problem. And the ministers are trying to do catch-up. To do catch-up. What does the president know about this issue that I don't know? And yet, in the past, you go to brief the president and you seek permission on issues that are beyond you. Issues like funding. If you have a program and you feel this is the best for the country, you go brief him. Then Kibaki, as usual, used to not give you prescription. He would ask you questions. And in the process of answering those questions, you get the answers for the problems that you took to him. So you take the problem to him, you come back with solutions, and those solutions are based on your own brief and the questions you answered.
Why would one want to control 22 different dockets of a cabinet, for example, from State House?
You know, the mistake we make is that we make businessmen politicians. And if somebody is a businessman, you would wonder whether there is business in his docket, whether there is business in his docket. So he wants to run everything from the table because he's basically a businessman. He's not a politician. He's not a leader.
But would you then not argue also that our politics is actually, our entire political structure is a business structure? Because start with the political parties, they are owned by individuals.
Yes. Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed. That's why I was saying we need to build institutions. Instead of allowing a party to be owned by an individual or to be seen to be associated with certain community where the individual comes from, we should build them as institutions that have the capacity to say, Muga, we have had enough of you. The way ANC has done in South Africa.
But isn't that because of the fact that political parties have actually, or in their original makeup, we say that they must be ideology based, whether you are based on the ideology of capitalism, whether you're based on the ideology of socialism, whether you're saying that what we need to do is, help people come together. So it doesn't matter who comes through the doors of the political party. They know that this is what we are after. But unfortunately, political parties, as an example, here are used as a political tool for political expediency. It is, I will form a political party, and all my cronies or my posse, as it were, around me will then, just follow in and we can do it for this purpose. Or if I've been kicked out of one party, I'm going to go and register another one so that somebody can then join me. But ideologically based political parties, unfortunately, don't exist to the extent for which they were originally created to. And that's why we have the mess that we have later. So you can put anybody in there so long as they're subservient to you. But to chase an agenda, which is saying, let the economy work for the people, put money in the hands of people, for example, we lose it because we're chasing an individual.
Yeah, that's true. There are only two political parties at the beginning of time, KADU and KANU, because at least they stood for certain unique constituencies. KANU was talking of unitary government, and KADU was talking of devolved system of government, although the devolution at that time was about the regions, not about the counties that we have today. So they were clear at that particular time. But the rest of the parties have been either grafted around an individual or a group of tribes coming up together against the other group of tribes. The study that I did, and I'm happy to announce, is that when I did a study on 54 countries of Africa, there are only 2 countries with a political party worth mentioning, Tanzania and South Africa. And in Tanzania, of course, it has become monolithic today that CCM is going to win the next election because the government and CCM have been made to be one. Because the provincial commissioner or the regional commissioner is almost the head of the party in that particular region and also is the administrator. The other place where I found some semblance of political system was in Botswana. And in Botswana, it is because it is done around the chiefs. So that like the UDC that is in power today is some amalgamation of certain chieftaincies that came together to support the current president to defeat the former president, Masisi, the Boko, I think they call him, Gideon Boko, to defeat President Masisi. So those are the 2 places. In other places, it's just monolithic. Like in Uganda, it is something unique.
But remember, there's something unique again about these countries that you speak of. Botswana is a population, first of all.
Yes.
And it's one community.
Yeah.
How many languages do they speak there?
Botswana.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So it isn't difficult.
Yeah.
Tanzania, Nyeri ensured that those 120 tribes...
123. Yeah.
was not the issue.
Yes.
The language unified all of them.
Kiswahili.
And they diminished the significance of tribes. And then they did something else. presidents actually leave power to the next person.
Yes.
It sounds like a miracle.
On this continent, it's a huge miracle.
Yeah.
We followed after them, but that's what they did.
Yeah.
And it is now the norm. These retired presidents are still in the party.
Yeah.
And they still have a role.
Yes.
So you actually find that there is a check and balance that we don't have. They do. Now, if you look at what it is that we started off with and what we had a chance to do something very, very unique on 2 occasions. One, when President Moi said, guys, why don't we just go this multi-party thing?
Yes.
A door opened, not a window, a door opened.
Yes.
And in 2002, that door was still open. We shut it.
Yes.
We have another opportunity now.
Yes.
Because we are seeing the full culmination of what it is we've been doing all these years. And we are seeing, I don't blame William Ruto for a single thing.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't.
Yeah.
If there's someone who manifests what we have become as a nation in terms of politics, it's William Ruto.
Yes. He's a good student.
Yeah, so you look at William Ruto and you realize this is what Kenyans have become. We see it because he's a president, and the things he does are the things we all do.
Yes.
The way he goes about his business is how we all go about our business.
Yeah. Muga, you are so right, because when you look at social media, so various WhatsApp groups, because at times my wife assists me to look at the Kikuyu WhatsApp groups because she understands the language. I look at the Kalenjin because I know the language. So at the end of the day, when we compare the notes from the WhatsApp from Mount Kenya and the WhatsApp from Kalenjin, the same. The same. Basically, they are responding to the president. It's only that the others are responding from the negative side, and the others are supporting him, regardless of the decision he has made. Yeah.
How do we then look at what we've seen? It could be a trend, but if we want to look at the last 15 years, okay, let's say the last 12 years, because we're into 2 years of this new administration and into 10 years of a previous one where the current president actually was the deputy president. But there always seems that you start off well, and then there's an issue between yourself and your deputy, who one would have assumed that you ran with on a similar, not similar ticket, on the same ticket.
Yeah, same ticket, yeah.
And you said, these are our goals, these are our desires, this is what we want. But then you fall off at some point. It didn't take too long for the current president and his immediate former to fall off.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here when we say that there is a unified government, in quotes, but then the lights suddenly come on?
The challenge, with the risk of repeating myself, is that we don't build institutions. We graft our ideas around individuals, and we seem to trust individuals more than institutions. If we had to really have a serious manifesto, only by the party itself, because even the manifesto of UDA, I was in UDA at some stage, was not fully owned by the party. It was just some amalgamation of things, including the bottom-up. Nobody could explain to you, how do you improve on the issue of bottom-up? How do you ensure that there is a value chain that starts from the bottom up to the top? What do you do about those who are in the middle of the pyramid, who are at the top of the pyramid? Because all the pyramids must remain the same. There are those at the top, there are those at the bottom, there are those in the middle, and therefore as you move up, you must make sure that you ensure that when you are coming from the bottom, you don't suffocate me in the middle. And if I'm in the middle, then I move towards the apex of the pyramid. And also the person at the apex of the pyramid does not feel threatened by people coming up from the bottom. This is the whole issue. People don't own the documents they produce before every election. Yeah.
It's like the only population we have in this country who seem to have something positive to say and contribute to what they don't like about the country. And it's not an indictment on the president, it's an indictment on the president and what he represents and those who are the president's ilk. If you're in that particular age group, you are under indictment. What the Gen Zs are saying is there's a generation that has misrepresented them. And that generation is personified in the president. And everything that they stand for is the very thing they're saying, this we cannot continue with. Because it is not possible for someone to amalgamate the sort of power I hear people claiming William Ruto has without acquiescence. People accept It's not as though there was a gun to their heads. No. They were induced.
If they were not comfortable with it, do you think, though, that they would be able to say no? I mean, I don't see anybody saying no. If anything, when we see with these nominations, where people are nominated, left, right, and center, we see them going on social media and saying, "Oh, it was with great honor and gratitude that I accept the nomination made by His Excellency the President. I will do my best." We don't see anybody saying, "Actually, you know what? I'm not the right fit for this," except in the case of the appointments for. Why wouldn't we say no?
Yeah, there are a few cases. There is was it called Nanike Mose or who? The guy was appointed, former MP was appointed to go to Ghana.
Yes.
He said no.
Yes.
Of course, this lady, might have also said no for other reasons. But the other one did not have a job, but he said no. I hope we'll have more people saying no. And we'll have more people resigning when they feel the position is not tenable. I would have expected Justin Muturi, who is a very good friend of mine, incidentally, to have resigned by now. Because he has only two ways. If he doesn't resign, they will impeach him or they will sack him.
It will be interesting to see how things go. One would hope that conscience would play on the minds of people. Kipruto Kirwa, thank you for always being here when the call is and for keeping these conversations alive. They need to continue. Asante sana.
It's my pleasure.
Good morning, everybody. It's 8 a.m.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Obaga. Tragedy has struck a secondary school in Ongata Rongai following the death of one of its former students. The deceased sat for her KCSE last year and hoped for an impressive score. However, the young woman reportedly lost meaning in life after the results were released and she scored a C+. Details indicate that trouble started when the KCSE results were released and the school's former students shared their grades in their alumni WhatsApp group. When she informed her colleagues that she had scored a C+, they reportedly laughed at her, which seemed to anger her. Authorities have launched investigations into the incident, with local leaders urging students and parents to prioritize mental health and seek support during challenging times. Elsewhere, 19-year-old Michelle Kemonto, who died of epilepsy only 2 days after completing her 2024 KCSE examinations, got a B-, a grade that qualified her for university admission. The news left the family in anguish, compounded by the realization of the promising future they have lost. In the international scene, in a major step in the long-running Gaza conflict, Israel and Hamas have reached a historic ceasefire deal brokered by Qatar, which world leaders have hailed. The deal, announced by Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed Thani, includes the release of hostages held by Hamas in exchange for Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails.
It is with pleasure that the state of Qatar, Egypt and the United States announce the success of the joint mediation as the parties to conflict in Gaza Strip has reached a deal on the swap of prisoners and captives in order to establish a ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire, in addition to the delivery of intense relief aid into our brothers in Gaza Strip, yielded in a breakthrough in these negotiations, reaching up to this deal.
The ceasefire is set to begin on Sunday and will last for 42 days, the first time the sides have stopped fighting since it resumed in Gaza 15 months ago. Outgoing US President Joe Biden said the ceasefire was part of a three-step plan aimed at achieving a lasting end to the conflict.
Long last, I can announce a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached. Phase 2 begins. There will be an exchange for release of the remaining living hostages, including male soldiers, and all remaining Israeli forces will be withdrawn from Gaza. And the temporary ceasefire will become permanent. Phase 3. Any final remains of hostages who have been killed will be returned to their families, and a major reconstruction plan for Gaza will begin.
US President-elect Donald Trump has expressed high hopes, citing the agreement as evidence of the diplomatic efforts of his administration, which is expected to take office next week. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has called for President William Ruto to resign over the recent wave of abductions that has also affected key political figures such as Public Service CS Justin Muturi, whose son was abducted and later released. Kalonzo said such actions by the Ruto regime ought to be investigated by the International Criminal Court.
If Ruto refuses to respect and enforce Kenya's constitution and laws, the solution is straightforward. He should resign. The ICC statute talks about the person bearing the highest responsibility, and that is not Nuruddin Haji, that is William Samoei Arap Ruto. We also demand the immediate release of the remaining abductees. We actually have a date on the 27th with the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kanja, before Justice Bahati Namui.
His remarks were echoed by Jubilee Party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, who insinuated that it's high time for Kenyans to arrest the president due to the widespread disaffection towards his administration.
And since it's Mr. William Ruto who makes a cause and they are released, let him also make another call, release them.
Any person within the KK administration who chooses to remain until the end, or who chooses to leave earlier than the end, and the end can be earlier than that end you think.
That's the News Wire. I'm Lydiah Obaga.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
That's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person, or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is that? So who is a hustler?
Hustler is a person who is making his a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge in Nyeri? Very high fence. You can't even see
inside. Near the sea.
And if you walk that midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Traffic.
All right, we are still in traffic hour at a few minutes after 8 o'clock, and it does continue on the Thika Superhighway this morning. Let's look at that as a point of reference getting into the CBD. As you get towards the Survey, it's going to slow down just a tad. And then out towards the Pangani underpass. Whatever is happening on Kiambu Road, we're seeing that certain lanes trying to get through Muthaiga Square is going to slow you down just a little bit. Waiyaki Way has quite some traffic this morning, doesn't it? Trying to get towards Westlands, in and outbound traffic around that Chiromo area, and then getting towards the junction. You're going to head towards Church Road, or you're going to head towards Raptor Road, and that's going to slow down a bit as well. Coming off of Limuru Road, also some traffic. Lower Kabete Spring Valley, also very busy right around now. A quick look at the Eastern Bypass will show that there is some traffic heading towards North Airport Road. Outer Ring traffic also touching on that area, busy as well. Mombasa Road is not looking too bad, but we do have traffic building on Langata Road heading out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, taking you towards the city centre, and also on Gong Road. It is looking busy. All right, yes, we are in traffic hour, so it's going to do that. How about we talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
At 8 minutes after 8 o'clock, welcome to the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. And we continue with our conversations today, even in this hour. Our guest is seated, and I'll tell you who that is in just a bit. I kind of told you who was it before. But I want to remind you about Cradle, and it's hosting its first annual Study Abroad Conference. It's happening in Nairobi on the 18th of January, just a few days away. And it's also happening in Eldoret on the 27th of January at the Okoh Hotel. So Nairobi, get onto the Gallant Mall in Parkland. So what is this all about? First of all, you know that Cradle, what they do is this mastery of using cutting-edge technology to match students with counselors to help them search, match and apply to over 600 universities in 45 destinations. So this conference is the first of its kind, and there are activities throughout the day whereby you can get to know information about how to secure your student visa. You can get to know what is the best destination for the career path that you would like to choose and the courses that you would like to study. It's not your typical study abroad conference. The morning will kick off with an inspiring conference packed with insightful sessions, how AI tools are being used to select your courses, and also there will be a battle of the university destinations. There will be tailored breakout sessions with university representatives, and you can have one-on-one conversations about accommodation, about securing your student visa, about where to live and what those towns and cities have to offer. So what you need to do is register, because we'd like to invite you. It's an invite only, but you can get this at no cost by registering on www.cradle.com or call 0799 000 444. Remember that. And we want to say a welcome to our guest this hour. And we're going to be looking at a little bit more in terms of what the country's politics have to offer at this point. Barak Muluka is our guest this hour, and we're looking at political alignments and which way forward for the country. He's a strategic communications advisor, and he joins us again in the Situation Room. Barak, good morning.
Morning, Joe. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good.
You're doing well?
Very well.
Is 2025 ticking the boxes?
I think it is. Mm-hmm. It is ticking the boxes, sometimes the right boxes, and sometimes the wrong boxes. But it's ticking the boxes one way or the other.
Boxes are being ticked. Fantastic. Let's give you the tea that we normally do in the Situation Room, and that is with today's proverb. Siti will tell you where he's traveled to this week, and then perhaps you can tell us what you think about it. Yes?
Okay, I saw him in Emmanuel. So
you saw him in a what?
Emmanuel.
You have me at a disadvantage.
He has everybody at a disadvantage. This man is speaking about where he comes from. Let me ask you the question, my brother.
Okay.
Which country in East Africa do we associate the Rwenzori mountain ranges with?
Uganda.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, Uganda.
It's got it quite
Rwenzori, and it means the mountain of elephants.
And it's sometimes referred to as the mountain of the moon.
Yes, Mountain of the Moon was a name that was given by the explorers, the Europeans. Because when they came, they could see the moon.
They could see it
on the other side. But Nzori, in Uganda, is
elephant.
The elephant. So Rwenzori, the mountain of the elephants.
It's a country rich in wildlife and rich in diversity of wildlife. That's the country we're in this week. The proverb: a dog with a bone in its mouth cannot bite you.
Yeah, and we are seeing many dogs with their bones in their mouths in this country, and they can't bite, can't even bark. A few months ago, they were barking. So if you want to silence your critics, give them a bone.
Give them something to do.
To keep them busy. An eating mouth cannot be a talking mouth, except when it's mine.
And then you find you can actually sit to the company of your enemies, and you all getting something done, but they're busy with the new shiny toy you've given them.
And there you are.
Well, I guess we're pointing in some direction as we start off this conversation this morning. And so we're looking at political alignments, and it seems to be as though many dog has been given a bone to chew on, but these are also forming political alignments in the country, are they not?
They are forming alignments, certainly political alignments, perhaps for purposes of making the regime in power for the time being survive this season up to 2027, and perhaps beyond that, looking at the possibility that they could carry themselves into another future, which would be the second term for the current regime. And therefore, we can say that they are assembling, massing the troops, not just to keep the current dispensation intact within the troubled context in which it obtains, where the citizens are by and large not very happy if we look at the opinion polls that we have been seeing in recent times, but also beyond that, hoping that they could constitute themselves into a viable and formidable partnership that could see them win, or howsoever concoct victory
win what?
Or otherwise concoct victory in the 2027. I say otherwise concoct victory deliberately because we have had the sirens crying out aloud and saying things like if the ballot box will not have enough papers, enough correct papers, we will stuff it with the right papers. We have had that said in public, in broad daylight.
Yes. Not shy.
No.
Why do you think we hear this? Because there's the choir master, there's the lead vocalist, but then there's the choir that continues singing the chorus regardless of what it is. The choir, the lead vocalist at one point could change the tune in the middle of a performance and it wouldn't matter. The rest of the choir just continues singing. Why do we see that? Are we talking about blinded loyalty? Are we talking about almost, clear sycophancy? Why do we always see that when, the lead vocalist goes in a particular direction, it's almost as though it's scripted and a script is passed out overnight? Okay, guys, this is where we are going next. Why do we see that when we're talking about governance and leadership?
I think the choir has been conditioned in a certain direction. We talked about dogs and bones at their start, and we know of the Pavlovian experiment. Pavlov, suppose he may have been Polish or something like that. Anyway, the scientist who was giving dogs meat and bones, and he would ring a bell at the same time, and the dogs would begin salivating. Then he carried on the experiment without the bones and the meat being there, ringing the bell. And to the sound of the bell, the dogs knew that it was time to salivate. So there's that conditioned reflex, and it doesn't matter that the dog owner may come and try to say that the tune is now different. Let's attempt a different one. They are used to doing it in a given manner, given way, and they are focused. Once you've trained your dog, it knows that if you pat twice, you are telling it sit down. If you pat once, it knows you are telling it attack. If you tap 3 times, it knows you are giving a specific instruction. And you may come to the public spaces and tap differently from how you have taught your dogs. And the people who are outside interpret the tapping in a manner in which it is conventionally supposed to be interpreted. But the dogs which you have trained in a particular way understand that you are calling them to attack.
Pavlov, classical conditioners is what they called it. He was Russian, but there's a key element that was made the experiments that he had. It was the reward element.
Yes.
It helped with the conditioning because when you behave in a certain way, in the case of the dog, you rate the bell with the meat. The meat was the reward. So the bell signified reward. So after a while, when you withdrew it, as long as there was the bell,
they salivated.
Yes. And I mentioned the reward, and thank you for bringing up Pavlov. I mentioned the reward element because the sycophancy and the singing discordantly has to do with the reward element. It's not suddenly because they've changed policy or they've changed the way. None of that features in our politics. There seems to be a reward at the end of it, and that's all the people in the political class want, to be in a position when you have some authority and some power, in this case laced with a massive gas guzzler and an officer and all manner of people running around you to open doors for you and to call you all sorts of wonderful names, and then not to forget the many travels that you can then go to do all. That seems to be the lure, and it looks like we don't have anybody who can resist it.
Well, can we, sorry, Dennis, but do we finally say, we've been flirting with the idea for quite a while, and maybe flirting with the possibility, but then it is seemingly more true now that many a politician who is given a position is not interested in the development of its people or its land, but that what you can get.
The distinction has been made between the politician and the statesperson, the statesman. The statesman, the individual who thinks about the welfare of the state, the welfare of the people, who thinks about the next generation. Unlike the politician who is thinking about self-service, self-gratification, self-fulfillment, and who thinks in our context here about the woolly materialism that our city talks about, and which goes beyond the toys that we see these people harassing us with on the highways, and their toys actually, to move on to the space that is called tenders and tenderpreneuring. When they say kusema na kutenda, they mean to speak, just to gabble, to mumble, to twaddle, and to tender, and to enjoy the tendering processes. Kusema na kutenda.
Yeah, and yet, even when all this happens, the person who suffers the most is the citizenry, that Kenyan who has to get the services because the bone is dangled and you're there to please your master, yet services does not get down to the people. So with all these alignments that we are seeing, the opposite of it is lack of services to Muluka, to Aseto City and Ndu. What would be the solution?
First, I think we need continuous civic education. When we wrote into our Constitution of Kenya 2010 matters that pertain to civic education, voter education, we did not do so out of levity. We did so out of the understanding that we need to engage all the time with the public, to sensitize the public to the reality that their choices matter. Their choices shape not just the destiny of the nation, they shape the destiny of individuals, they shape the destiny of your children tomorrow, and they shape the destiny of the country. Because there's a sense in which people are zombified into some mental dysfunction, where they look at certain individuals who are appointed into those spaces and they start thinking that they are also part of the dispensation. For example, within the recent past, you have seen people from the Mount Kenya region being appointed into the Ruto cabinet. And that is meant to hoodwink the people of the mountain to believe that they are part of this government. And if there is any eating taking place, that they are also at that eating table, where they may be made to believe that they made this government and therefore they must not be left out, they must be part of the party. Or you have seen people from Luo Nyanza seeing a couple of fellows being called to that cabinet, and they go on to say, now we are in government and therefore we will not any longer participate in maandamano or in any other form of protest against this government's offensives against the people of this country. Now, these are people who need perpetual voter education to know that nobody can eat on your behalf, that if you are hungry, it doesn't matter that you go to the biggest banquet and that people are eating and you're watching as if you're watching a football match in which there are rules and regulations and you're not supposed to participate apart from cheering them. If you're going to be a cheerleader at an eating banquet, you go home hungry. And that is what is happening in this country. And that task belongs for the time being to the IEBC, that between one election and the next one, it's supposed to engage the country in a continuous voter education process. But we can see that IEBC has been sent into a state of permanent paralysis.
Intentional?
For intended reasons.
Do you think so? I mean, to hold you on to that, Barack, is that, do you think that is an intentional position? Because if we know that constitutionally the IEBC is bound between one election and the next to ensure that the citizenry of the country is continually educated about issues having to do with elections, civic education, what should be happening in terms of your vote, how you get a card, because, it has to happen all over again. If that doesn't happen, if we can't even see that commissioners for an IEBC, which are needed at some level, that doesn't happen, how would you then jump to the next thought that would mean, well, then somebody is trying to make sure here that this doesn't happen and I can hoodwink Kenyans at the very last moment into an election? Exactly. That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. That why would somebody do this intentionally? Why would you want to do something like that if it is showing that it is a conscious effort to keep people in limbo? What would I possibly achieve by a constitutionally bound body not doing its job? How would that benefit me or anybody else for that matter?
Because you are about self-service. Your philosophy of government is that you have gotten into government to become rich. And everything else within the civic space is an instrument for, number one, sustaining you in power, possibly in perpetuity. That's why we have heard some people saying that they know how to manufacture presidencies that last a quarter of a century. Mm-hmm. They're saying that they manufactured before, and they're saying that they're going to manufacture again. They toy even with the idea of removal of presidential term limits, basically because that individual is not there to serve the nation. If that individual were there to serve the nation, if that were their political leadership, governance, and management philosophy, they would be thinking about presiding over a 5-year period and going back to the citizens to say, see, I have done all this. Reddy Kilowatt used to say, see, I have worked all these hours for you. And he would show us what he had done for us, and he would say, pay. So this Reddy Kilowatt, so to speak, would come to us with a scorecard, a brag sheet, and tell us, I've done this. And probably they would not even need a brag sheet because we would already know that these people have done very well, and therefore we think we should renew their tenure. But this is about yourself. It is about the gravy train converting government, the institution of the executive in particular, into a gravy train, mopping up all other institutions and entities to serve this gravy train, which has got an owner who is also the captain. Captain who can stand up easily without speaking to the relevant authorities to find out what the implications of saying you can now put up a 25-story building here, and driven and goaded by the thought that I am the president and the commander-in-chief, I hereby command that you can now build up to 25 floors. We have seen that before in East Africa, haven't we? That President Idi Amin would say, what's your name? Siti Muga? You're now the governor of the Central Bank of Uganda. Barack, you are now the head of the Uganda Medical Services, without any reference to prior knowledge, prior experience, future relevance. That is where we are. And so IEBC becomes an instrument. It is instrumentalized for political purposes and politicized for instrumental purposes, that when the next election is around the corner, you can quickly cobble up IBC with the specific brief of declaring you the winner in that election. The rest of the things, like those issues, should be happening today. Today, we ought to be going through the procurement process. We ought to be going through familiarization of the citizens with the electoral technology, that this is what will be done. The building of confidence among the public in the electoral process, educating the public about the need to vote. One of the most dangerous things or pronouncements is when you hear someone saying that I have lost faith and I do not intend to vote again. It's extremely dangerous, but I think there are those who are very happy, the people wielding power. And so we should not nonetheless get into the space of surrender and cynicism. We must get into the space of encouraging the voices that speak to and against this kind of conduct to carry on. That's another platform of civic education. We are seeing that the youth, particularly the millennials and the Gen Zs, are awake to this. Thank God for that astuteness and awakeness. And when they were chased from the streets because it was said that they were disrupting business and they were being clobbered left, right, and center, they said, wait a minute, but we are the generation, the one generation, the only generation in the whole world that has grown up with the digital technology. And so if you chase us from the streets, we will find another space. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, you engage in exercises in futility when you start abducting them out here and doing all manner of tormenting to them and to their families, because they are as widespread as the globe. Are you going to arrest
them all?
Abduct even the ones who are preparing those caricatures from New Zealand, from Australia?
Barack, as you're speaking, the thing that comes to mind, and my mind was actually doing a trip. And I was thinking from the times when there were monarchies, and what it is that those who were related to the king and what they did to ensure that they remained in power. And then I thought back to the people who gave meaning to the word dictator, and in the West, not here. The things they did, whether it was the people we refer to as communists, whether it was the governments related to them. Then we come back to our own continent, and people who had this monolithic power, or so they thought. It reminds one of Robert Burns' poem, of poems to a mouse. The best laid plans of men and mice. There's something called the role of chance that has this nasty habit of intervening in the best laid plans, because you've laid it out well. Someone seems to have orchestrated a plan to ensure that they will control everything to do the elections. That's precisely the point. It's when you think you've laid it out well and you've understood, and these are the expected outcomes, something completely untoward comes in, something you didn't expect, or you set in motion something you didn't expect, and that's what now comes to bite you. The very thing you thought would help you achieve what you wanted
will harm you.
The complete opposite is what happens.
The guillotine.
How very apt. The guillotine.
The guillotine. That the person who fashions the guillotine for purposes of beheading
the
critics of the state ends up losing losing their head to the guillotine.
Yeah.
The turn of events, the unknown winds of change that are going to blow in the coming times. Because when you say that we are going to staff the boxes, when you say things like aende wapi, that we won when we were not in government, now we are in government, you are assuming that you are going to mobilize the instruments of violence against the people to accept whatever outcome you announce, or if the IBC should announce something different, that you will refuse to hand over power and say that mutadu. Now, you are assuming very many things. First, you are assuming that you have a monopoly of violence. Citizens are demonstrating even now that they will obey the law and the rule of law, Aseto, to the extent only that those who are the guardians and custodians of law and order obey
what you say.
The law. When they don't, you start seeing the citizens occupying that space. And they are saying, we are now in charge. We are now exercising our sovereignty directly. You have seen that happening. They are also assuming that the armed instruments of state will sympathize, empathize, and agree with them. Who is telling you that the police will always be with you?
That's a good question, and one for us to take a break on. Having this conversation with Strategic Communication Advisor Barak Muluka, and we're looking at some of these political alignments, what people are saying, and where it's going to take us into the next 2 years. We'll continue with that conversation when we come back from this break. We'll take a look at weather and traffic and be back after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
The weather this morning was from Kakamega County, where we're experiencing highs of 30 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. In Mombasa, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. In Nairobi City, highs of 23 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. In Nyeri, highs of 25 degrees and lows of 8 degrees. We crossed the borders to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. We're experiencing highs of 22 degrees and lows of 7 degrees. In Mogadishu, Somalia, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 23 degrees. Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 27 degrees. But it's pretty cold in China with highs of 4 degrees and lows of negative 4 degrees. So is the case in United Kingdom, highs of 10 degrees and lows of 7 degrees. And in Paris, France, highs of 6 degrees and lows of 0 degrees. That's the weather these are.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, so we're still in traffic hour. A little bit of traffic in and out of the city, but actually nothing at painful degrees. Moving along, looking at major highways today, Mombasa Road getting out towards the CBD, and then also touching on the roundabout at Nyayo Stadium. Traffic coming in from Langata Road slows things down just a tad, but then you'll be fine after that. It's been okay on the Thika Superhighway. Kangunda Road now just a little bit of that left as you touch on Outer Ring. Limuru Road coming in from Gigiri That's busy right now, as it is Lower Kabete coming Spring Valley, Wayaki Way. That trouble spot seems to still be there, and it's slow. But then after that, we'll be fine. Not sure what's causing that, but we'll keep an eye open all for that. Let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods. I'll keep things moving this morning. We'll talk on SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
22 minutes to 9 o'clock, and Barak Muluka is our guest this hour, looking at political alignments and which way Kenya really, as we've been discussing.
Yeah, and we talk about political alignments, and this is all because look at the appointments that are happening right now as we speak. Is because they're trying to, it seems like as though they're trying to ensure that the current administration continues undisturbed and power 2027 is there. But even as you talk about matters to do with civic education that needs to be there, in my humble opinion, I think civic education needs to be done more on the politicians, because they do not understand what their role is in serving the republic. Look.
Aseto, first, the opinion should not even be humble. It should be as bold as possible, because it is spot on. But I think these are old dogs. City introduced the notion of the dog at the start, and so we travel with the dog and the dogs throughout. Among other things, and I have said, including on this show, that in the season of fertility, the dogs will always come together to do that which they must do for purposes of reproducing themselves. And it doesn't matter whether they are Alsatians, whether they are Doberman, whether they are German Shepherds
or Bosco.
They will come together, and they are extremely mannerless. And we are seeing the political dogs coming together in what they consider to be the season of fraternizing and holding Congress and doing all manner of stuff of that kind. And they are telling us that it is about unity, it's about uniting the country. When you look at the country, there are two things to be said here. Number one is that the country, the citizens are not divided. You go everywhere in this country. You see, one of the things that happen to people in high places is that they lose touch with reality. Someone like His Excellency President William Ruto has only direct and useful quality time with sycophants, fellows who sit around him, who know what he wants to hear, and who tell him what they know he wants to hear. He has no room for meeting ordinary wananchi out there to know what they are saying. And so when he is told through instruments such as those we are using now that the people are not with him, that he has lost his base, he does not understand. The country is united. If I were to talk to Mr. President, I would tell him, Mr. President, the country is united. There's nothing you are uniting. Kenyans are united very firmly, between 80 and 90% unanimity that your government is taking the country in the wrong direction, to the wrong destination. The country is united in the perspective that this government should serve its term and go as quickly as yesterday. That is unity of purpose. The citizens are united. The citizens are united in the belief that there is theft on a grand scale in government. The citizens are united in the belief that the cost of living is very high and that something could be done about it by a government that is caring. The country is united in its views about the health care program. The country is united in the belief that Parliament has been captured by the executive. The country is united in the belief that the judiciary is losing it. The country is united in the belief that the abductions are bad, they are not serving the citizens. So I do not know what President William Ruto is talking about, unifying a country that is already united. And finally, unity is as good as the purpose for which people unite. If you tell us that we should unite in what is essentially a skunk regime, so that we are perpetuating a rotten journey to doom, then we don't need that kind of unity. Because that kind of unity is a conspiracy. The people whom City was talking about, who came up with the notion of dictator, were ancient Romans, and the first dictator was Julius Caesar, and they suspended Parliament and gave all the power to run the affairs of state to an individual whom they called the dictator, and it was supposed to be a good terminology. Then some years later, many years later, we saw the Germans again suspending the role and powers of Parliament and giving them to an individual whom they called the leader, the Führer, and he was basically a dictator. That kind of unity is not helpful. And Caesar, of course, paid the price.
Right.
And even Adolf Hitler, in the fullness of time, paid.
You know, in modern times, history is a great teacher if you are willing to actually be taught. We are not going through things that other people haven't gone through. There's nothing new here, even within this country. What unified citizens of this country at independence was they understood at some point who their collective enemy was. They understood there are this group of people who are not very useful to us. They understood this. When the dictatorship came in under the guise of a one-party state, people galvanized again, and we had unity right across the board, and people understood, you know, this is where our problem is. Multipartyism came in. Then we relaxed. Now, people think that dictatorship comes in one fell swoop. No. It comes in incrementally.
Yeah.
Yes. You don't lose your liberties in a day. No. It's in bits and pieces, in bobs and bits, and but you keep losing it. Do you really think that Sheikh Hasina, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, was the first authoritarian ruler they had? No. The people had preceded her. But collectively, she had been Prime Minister for 20 years. Her father had been the first president of Bangladesh, her father.
Yes.
The point that
Sheikh
she had
Rahman.
not, yes, the point that she had not anticipated was that the military, who had hitherto listened to everything she said, would tell her, we are not going to do what you are telling us. Quite simply, we will not do it. That had not been anticipated. She went into self-exile. The thing about losing touch with what is happening always ends up in you making decisions that have no bearing on the reality on the ground. And if I may just add to what you've said by appearing to offer a different opinion, the president is actually right when he says he's unifying us. It's inadvertent, but he is.
Yes, yeah. You could say that
inadvertently,
what he thinks is unity that he's doing is different from the reality of unity. It's what we would call a philosophical antinomy. There are two things that seem to contradict each other.
Diametrically opposed. Yes,
but everybody's speaking on them.
But they are actually both correct. That on the one hand, the president is unifying the political class at the very top. And he thinks that by so doing, he's unifying the country
the entire citizen
to go with him. But the byproduct of what he's doing is that the country is actually uniting against him and that class of people.
And that formation that he's implementing.
What's the danger in that when we look at the fact, or we look at what's happening here, that for the first time, well, maybe not the first time, but with as much vigor as we see it, that people are not talking about issues, to do with, I will not, engage with you on matters of tribe. I will not engage with you on matters of class. But we're saying, I will engage with you no matter who you are, because of the problems in which we see the nation at the moment and the manner in which it is being governed. Has not happened, not at this magnitude, for a very, very, very long time, at least not in Kenya. What's the danger of not being able to see, of having tunnel vision when it comes to this is what your people are saying? You may be hearing the noise, but you're not listening to the message. So even when you do make political appointments, when you have these political formations and these political alignments, you could be thinking that what you're doing is sorting out a problem. But the folks on the other end are saying, excuse me, we are here and that's not our issue. And those folks who are saying that are in the majority.
The danger is not for the people. The danger is for the head that wears the crown. Indeed, ultimately, the danger is for one individual who is going to discover that he is on a lonely island. President William Ruto is sleeping in the middle of a revolution. He is a latter-day Rip Van Winkle, who will wake up one morning to find that the country moved and is alone. If he had an iota of good people around him, whom he listens to, they would tell him to see how the space around him has begun crumbling. The space around him is disintegrating. People he thought he had are coming out to tell us that no, enough is enough. We have said on this platform that when the turtle comes out of the sea to tell us that all is not well within that sea and that a crocodile is sick, we should believe him.
Now, Barack, you talk about his inner circle coming out and speaking up, and part of this inner circle as well was you during the campaigns when you offered your services to him. But it got to a point, your Damascus moment, and you said, Ibasi lazima nishuke. But is it a question of a president that does not listen or see what others are saying?
Aseto, I've always been in Damascus, unbeknown to you. And when you talk about my discovery of a Damascene moment, of course we have to understand that you probably speak on the basis of a knowledge gap, because sometimes the constructs are extremely complex. The issue is simply this, that we had a vision. We had a plan for this country. And I'd like you to look at that plan and fault it. It is infallible.
It was a good plan.
It was a good plan. And we had a candidate, a good candidate who understood how to articulate that plan. And then we got in the house. And as soon as we got in the house where we should have been safest, the rain started beating us.
I'm sorry, when you say we, who is we? Sorry, Barack.
We who had formed ourselves around this candidate.
Okay, you who, if we say it in plain terms, you who had also thrown your support behind current President William Ruto.
Absolutely. Okay. I invite you to pay attention.
I just need to, in class sometimes.
To what I'm saying.
Yeah, you need to clarify certain matters.
I understand. As a classroom teacher, I've got to do a lot of remedial work. So we are together. Now, you see, when you get out of this place, you will see signboards out there pointing to different directions and destinations, and even telling you Mombasa that way. And it will tell you so many hundreds of kilometers away.
Yes.
And you'll find another one pointing towards Machakos and wherever. You cannot controvert those signboards. They are telling you the truth. And William Ruto was telling this country the truth. Justin Bidan Njoka Muturi has come out of that space to say that his party believed in the vision. He's saying there was a good vision, there was a good agenda, and he had confidence and faith in it. And those of us who have studied economics, who have studied political economies, communications for development, are familiar with the notion of the bottom-up agenda. We have come across it in communications theory. We've read about people like Daniel Lenner, people like Everett Rogers, people like many others. Let's just say many others who talk about people like Shoemaker and many others who talk about the bottom-up agenda, traveling with the people, processing the stuff from the bottom. This was the only time that a candidate went out to sign 47 charters with 47 counties. And there were even additional charters with the disabled, with the women, with the
and
youth.
And not just a charter in blanket, but a charter that encompassed several sectors, education, health, infrastructure. Within those charters.
So it looked good. But when the person got into the house, he abandoned all that. As an honest person, I cannot hang in there and pretend that all is well. This is not what we wanted.
Okay, I must ask you at this point, Barack, because there's a lot of chatter at the moment from folks within and from folks outside on this very same matter, that you've gone down the road and you've seen, okay, for whatever reason, whether you've brought in people who are not original vision bearers, or if you were going down the road and you realized, hang on a minute, this is not the way that we said we were going to go. This is not the vehicle that we said we were going to employ for this thing. If everybody around you is murmuring the same thing, what would be the onus on you, the vision bearer, to now say, hang on, guys, actually, maybe we've gone wrong? Would there be a place for honesty to be played out here and say, okay, let's reroute? Because that's what, remember, when you're on a map now with technology and you're going in one direction, the lady on Google Maps will tell you, okay, you can redirect, isn't it? You can turn around and start again, or why don't you go left and then let's turn again? There's somebody who will tell you, let's try rerouting. Is that so difficult in a political governance leadership position?
Those fellows have no capacity, no ability, no proclivity for that kind of counsel to the leader. They are Rasputin, if you know about Rasputin, the mad monk. They will be lying to the person in charge, and he loves it that way. And let's get this right. That you have an individual who believes that he knows everything. An individual who believes that he's always right. And that everything that he knows and that rightness which he always is must be executed. Anyone who comes with a contrary voice, therefore, becomes either mad or unpatriotic or just stupid. So when you preside over a cabinet meeting in which people understand that if they are going to express a contrary view, then they must be mad or unpatriotic or just simply stupid, they keep quiet. When they don't keep quiet, they echo what you're saying the entire cabinet.
But are those the only options that they have, really, Barack?
The option for men and women of integrity is to vacate that space.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So if Ndu is asking about Barack, you can see that some time back I brought here Eliud Owalo as one of his advisors.
Yes.
Quite early in the day, I saw that this thing is going nowhere. Yeah. This is not the government that we promised the people of this country. And I personally, quietly, voluntarily vacated that space because we must stay focused on the bigger agenda, which is the country. City, at this age, I'm not interested in toys. I'm not.
No?
No.
Okay.
I'm not interested in toys. I drive a small car out there. It is.
It takes you from point A to B.
Toyota, which takes me from point A to B. My children, who are young professionals, drive the so-called state-of-art limousines. You will find them driving the BMs, the Mercedeses, the Audis. They are going through a stage. I was there years back. Now, in the ripeness of age, I'm quite comfortable with a roof above my head. I don't need those things, and that's what this country needs, especially
in this time
in leadership.
I hear you. And one of the things, I'm walking away personally, is that when somebody tells you something over and over again, whether they open their mouth to do it or whether they behave in a certain way, you should believe them. Strategic Communications Advisor has been our guest this hour. Barack Muluka, thank you always for coming in and joining us. And one thing we often say, and we should keep saying, is that these conversations must continue.
Must continue. I thank you for the opportunity.
Asante sana.
Asante.
Folks, good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Newswire, Amla Ubaga. Acting UN Vice-Chancellor Professor Francis Muller says a huge fire broke out at the University of Nairobi's Taifa Hall, causing huge damage to the building. Muller says the fire started in the kitchen of a restaurant within the structure before it spread out to other areas.
We had a fire incident at the Gandhi wing of the University of Nairobi, specifically the senior common room, which then affected the Chancellor's parlor, which is adjacent. The fire was intense and consumed the two structures, that is the senior common room and the Chancellor's parlor. These are historical structures dating back to when the university was constructed, way back around 1963. So we have structures, and of course most of the structure is made of old timber, and that also contributed to the acceleration of the fire.
Muller adds that a new fire was detected by security today morning at about 5 a.m., adding that no injuries were reported but property of unknown value was damaged.
We thank the Nairobi Fire Services. They responded fast and rapidly, and they were able to contain the fire from spreading. We also want to thank Kenya Power. They responded and basically switched off the electrical supply so that the fire could not spread. And of course, we also want to thank the National Police Services, who also helped basically to secure the place.
Police and residents spent over an hour cutting through the mangled wreckage of two lorries to rescue victims following a collision involving two lorries and a bus near the sewage area along the Embu-Nairobi highway. The accident, which occurred around 8:30 p.m. last night, claimed one life and left two others seriously injured. The crash involved a lorry transporting maize, another carrying firewood, and a bus belonging to a Mombasa company. Eyewitnesses reported that one of the lorries heading towards Nairobi experienced brake failure and rammed into another lorry that was being inspected by Embu County enforcement officers at a roadblock. MPs will today cut short their long recess to consider, amongst others, reports on President William Ruto's nominees. The lawmakers, who are on a 2-month recess, will consider committee reports on 3 cabinet secretaries' nominees who are set to join the broad-based government. The 3 are Mutahi Kagwe for Agriculture, William Kabogo ICT, and Leki Nyanjui Trade. In case the House rejects any of the names, the Speaker will notify the appointing authority, who will then submit other names for considerations. MPs will also consider reports on nominees to the Public Service Commission, as well as individuals who are nominated to represent the country in various foreign countries. Former Agriculture Minister Kipruto Kirwa says he expects more government officials to resign in the coming days, especially if they feel they can no longer work in the current government. Kirwa also says that he is looking forward to more loyal Kenyans who will reject presidential appointments, as has been seen in the past. For his good friend, Public Service CS Justin Muturi, this is what he had to say.
Former MP was appointed to go to Ghana, said no. Of course, this lady, might have also said no for other reasons, but the other one did not have a job. But he said no. I hope we'll have more people saying no. And we'll have more people resigning when they feel the position is not tenable. I would have expected Justin Muturi, who is a very good friend of mine, incidentally, to have resigned by now. Because, he has only 2 ways. If he doesn't resign, they will impeach him or they will sack him.
And finally, a section of the Bukusu Council of Elders have issued a strong warning against any attempts to impeach Governor George Natembeya. The elders, who gathered at Kitale Museum, condemned the plans, threatening intense political repercussions if the motion to remove Natembeya proceeds. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Taking a look at what's happening with traffic as we're coming towards the end of traffic hour. It's not too crazy today. It's been an interesting Thursday. A little bit of traffic coming in from the Thika Superhighway just at Survey. It's going to touch on Murang'a Road just a little bit, and then you're going to get into the CBD without too much of an issue. Now is when we see just a tad of traffic on Haile Selassie going towards the CBD. Uhuru Highway is not doing too badly, so we're going to keep an eye on that as you go out towards Westlands. It's busy coming off of Limuru Road, so we're going to watch out for that for a while. Kiambu Road, it's coming to an end as you get towards Muthaiga Square, and let's see what happens on Gong Road a little bit later. Langata Road also gave some traffic from Galleria out towards the barracks and then on towards Aerodrome, but that seems to have dwindled, so yay for that. The Eastern Bypass heading out towards North Airport Road looking all good, at least for now. Let's see what happens as we really do trot out of traffic hour in about half hour, and we'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Patrick Lodge, Otieno Lumumba. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Nasema opposite.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Getting into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Thursday, the first Friday of the week. And yes, a number of conversations that we've had this morning, just giving insights into where we are and then trying to say, okay, how do you apply policy to some of these? How do you apply conscience to some of these? And our conversations continue. We will be joined by the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, Jeremiah Kioni, in a short while. And even as we get into that, the 2GG program by the KCB Foundation doing some good things, isn't it?
Yes. And we talk about the 2GG platform doing some good things. It is actually something that is tangible. It is tangible in the sense that you can see the numbers, you can see the individuals who've been touched directly. And when we talk about matters being touched directly, City, we talk about the certification of NITA, how this helps one to be able to apply for jobs, be able to present to clients in order for them to get that job.
You know, let me tell you the thing about certification. We are a nation that believes in paper qualifications. I don't mean false paper qualifications, but qualifications that are backed up with a piece of paper that signifies what it is that you have done. More so by an authority that is known to have that mandate for doing precisely that. Now, how we know it is significant is because you may be very qualified, you may be very able, you may be technically astute, but in the absence of that paper, there are very many things which will pass you by, simply because you will be asked, and your qualifications are, fill in the blanks, and you'll say this, and you'll say, can we see it? Now, that is what many people lack. And that is what the 2GG program does for you.
Yes.
That helping hand that takes you to the next level, where you are now able to actually meet every requirement. You're able to do it, and you can actually prove that you're able to do it because you have a certification from a body that is authorized and mandated to give that certification.
And when you talk about many that have been touched, KCB says 150,565 jobs have been created, trained 35,195 youth, incubated 10,954 youth, as well as disbursed 267 million shillings loans to support their enterprises, and issued 2,225 startup toolkits to the youth, as well as trained 6,535 businesses on financial planning. It's not just about touching people, it's about the numbers that back the initiative that is ongoing for the young people. KCB says, you want all this information? kcb.com/foundation.
Fantastic. And those who are looking towards university education, perhaps in a different destination from where you live, the first ever Study Abroad annual conference is taking place in Kenya. 2 destinations. It will be in the at the Gallant Mall in Parklands on the 18th of January. That's in Nairobi. And on the 27th of January in Eldoret at the Okoh Hotel. What is in store for you? An opportunity to meet professionals who can guide you and talk with you about what your desires are, what you want for university education, the destinations that these universities are in. Over 600 universities in 45 different destinations. And the first of its kind, where you have a whole day to sit, to pick, to use technologies to match you to where you will eventually go to school. And you have an opportunity to see where they are. You have an opportunity to talk about accommodation, about scholarships, about how to secure a student visa. People have asked for more time, and it's been given to you. What you need to do is register www.cradle.com. Remember, Cradle are the good folks who make sure that you can use technology to match students with destinations and the right university of your choice in different destinations around the world. So the website again, where you should register, www.cradle.com, or dial 0799 000 444. All right, our guest for the hour is here this morning. For the first time this year, no stranger to the Situation Room, and not a stranger in Jerusalem either. No? Jeremiah Kioni, Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, is here with us this morning. Jeremiah, good morning.
Morning and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yes, I'm happy to be back.
You're still standing strong.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me the New Year.
Thank you for being here this morning.
Yes, kusimama na kuketi.
Okay. See, that's the way we are going. Okay. So, let's welcome you first before we dive into the deep end, shall we?
Okay.
City has a proverb. He'll tell you which country we are in this
He
week.
is now in Kenya.
We were in Kenya,
and then
the
now
first
you didn't
week.
come.
Oh, the first week.
Yes.
Oh, my.
Now we're in a neighboring country.
Okay.
You might know this country.
Okay.
Yes, it's one of our neighbors.
Okay.
I'll give you this nice broad hint that you can't possibly miss. Source of the Nile is associated with that country.
Uganda.
So, yes, see.
Museveni, I think I should have said Museveni.
You did not skip geography classes. We've had people telling us interesting things when you ask such a question. They take you as far as West Africa and you realize, okay, probably people were taught different aspects of African geography.
Yeah.
But yes, it is Uganda.
Uganda.
The proverb of the day, a dog with a bone in its mouth cannot bite you.
Yeah, I think that's what we are trying to do to everybody in Kenya. Yeah, put a bone in everybody's mouth so that we don't bite you. Unfortunately, it's just a bone. In our community, it is a bone with meat, so you should be eating the meat.
Yes,
then pass on the bone. But when you have not just a bone, I think it is what is being done to us as a country. Everybody is being given a bone. The only unfortunate thing is that those who are being given bones can actually see. Because Kenyans, you can't give Kenyans bones anymore. They want the meat. Yes.
Now, thank you very much for that, because it will form the basis of how we are going to start this conversation, I think.
I'll put myself into
You've put the bone in your mouth.
Or you've removed the bone.
You've removed the bone
from your mouth.
Okay. Yeah, right. There we go.
Okay. So bones are being given to people, and you're saying that they do not like the bones. Truly? But it would appear as though people are very happy with the positions that are being taken. And if they say they are not, are they being honest? Because today we're talking about honesty in the political arena. So now if we say that people have been given something to divert their attention a little bit, and they don't really like it, but they seem to be gnawing on the bone, quite some, and are not looking as though they're upset with the situation.
I think it's a question of the people and the individuals. The people, the Kenyans, have been given the chicha to smoke it, and it's not appealing to them. They have been given a fake university funding model, which is not working. They have. We were told that we will follow the constitution when you are being arrested, even for crimes unknown. We are now being abducted. These are the kind of bones I'm talking about, and you are being kept at the unknown places. Once you are arrested, you should be placed in a police station where you should be accessed by your lawyers and your family members. You should have the freedom to get in touch with those who can help you and not those who care about you. But what we have now seen are scenarios where people are kept away for even up to 35 days, and some never to be seen again. And the explanations that we've been given, those kind of bones are not holding. And what is happening is that when we call them out, they get angry. When you say that we had a constitution that we all agreed to and signed to, which should guarantee us the freedoms, which were really divine, in my opinion, and perhaps in the opinions of many who are there before us. These are defined rights, freedoms, and they should not be taken away by anybody. When you say that, they get angry. And all those bonds are not useful anymore. So Kenyans are, even while we have no quarrel with people being appointed to places, if you are appointed and then denied an opportunity to deliver, that's still another bone that is being thrown to you, because they want to tell you that we now have appointed a person who is your neighbor. You should not be complaining. But the issue is not a question of the neighbor. It is whether the people have also been given an opportunity to deliver. So we have opened the year in that manner. Very, very unprecedented. In fact, something I think is a correct thing now. When I was looking at it yesterday, 2 days ago, a week ago, what we have now is we really, these people in power have actually done a constitutional coup. We are at a coup. They have overthrown our constitution. Our constitution talks about arresting a person, producing him within 24 hours. allowing him the access of a lawyer and letting him know why it is that you are being arrested. What are we now seeing? Situations where you are arrested and nobody knows where you are. The people who are supposed to know, the police officers, they are called and they say there must have been a robbery incident. Let us now, you can actually see the answers were really genuine in terms of given who, you do not know what was happening. So there is now somebody who has disappeared in your area. You are not aware. The only thing that hits you is, was there a robbery? Is this?
It's what you're normally used to dealing with.
Yes. But when again you go all the way to the top and the top makes a call and you see your person, that's a coup on our constitution. Because it was never meant to be that way. These offices are independent as per our constitution. And they should be operating without the need for anybody calling them. When you are talking about our education, we had looked at, and I remember the Supreme Court. I think we went all the way to the Supreme Court or maybe the Court of Appeal. We talked about economic rights. It's a progressive thing.
Yeah.
So we were going to get free education, free universal health care, and we were progressing towards that. Now all of us are supposed to smoke chicha. You saw some patients who refused to smoke that thing yesterday, or it was difficult to smoke. They tried it at Kenyatta National Hospital. It is not working. We had a functioning system. The National Hospital Insurance Fund, it was working.
It was.
We had even trials in 4 counties on universal health care. Can you imagine? We had already taken 4 counties on board where you walk into a hospital and all that you need to do is give your name, you are a Kenyan, and you are treated.
The pilot was done, yes.
Those pilots, and they worked. Now we are completely lost. You are supposed to show the kind of transactions you have received through your M-Pesa so that they allow you to see what kind of money you should be contributing. There is no Kenyan today who has an M-Pesa account. Hata ile ya kutumiwa ya kukunywa sigara, it will qualify you for 1,500 contribution on a regular period, whatever period they are using. So this thing of saying that there is a Kenyan who can be, given the system that they have put in place, who can contribute 300 shillings is nonsense. What they are doing is that they are now denying Kenyans access to things that were looking almost ordinary under the leadership of Jubilee. I talked to a parent the other day who told me that it's amazing that even if you are helping your sister, your brothers, siblings, your nieces and nephews, because maybe your siblings will either have left you or are nimble, there before it was just a question of agreeing, getting them to school. And the system was taking them on board, universities, colleges. All you needed to do was to report. Capitation is sent. Today, there's no hope. There is no hope. Nobody knows what is going to happen next. So we have a corrupt education system, literally corrupt, and I can tell you where we went wrong, maybe. No, we went wrong in many ways.
Is it really collapsed?
Yes, it is collapsed.
It may be heading in that direction, but is it really collapsed?
It's collapsed because when you take, I had a person who came to help in the house the other day with some mama, and the lady then realizes who is this? I should tell him what I went through yesterday. Maybe she gathers her courage and tells me, I took my child yesterday to school. When I went back later in the day, I found the child at home. Why? Because she was told, go back home until we call you when you construct the classrooms.
Yeah.
That's a collapsed system. And if you are a head of a state and this does not bother you, you still have an opportunity to fly out and go and see the Arabs. If you have that, you are murdering the future of our children.
I want to ask you
and they have a reason to get very angry. And instead of us getting angry with them, they are getting angry with us. And for that reason, they call us all sorts of names. You remember Bugoma? Somebody being told, shame on you, shame on you. on a national television when the head of state is next. And the head of state is, move on, my young man, you are doing well, you are a future leader. We go this other side, Farah starts on top of the trees and calls us funny names, things that are not, I'm sure you not find it in the African proverbs. When you go through all the countries of Africa, those are not things that are going to be mentioned anywhere. And him, at his age, instead of helping the young people to know the things they should be saying and not saying, he utters things that are really bad, even before you know what it is that he wants to say. The fact that he opens his sentence with those kind of phrases, you close your eyes and ears, and Ruto is there saying, just smiling and looking like he's, we have come to this other side and Sudi, and they tell you, we know how to manufacture votes. We know how to manufacture terms of president. Those are individuals who are confirming to us that a coup was done on our constitution. And we have a reason to think outside the box, but within the constitution.
I hear what you're saying.
Yes.
And, we as Kenyans, and I'm just sure that this is who you're referring to, but then there are still would-be leaders, and probably still aspiring leaders who could be seen as taking advantage of a situation right now whereby, yes, things are not going so well, but then it provides a fantastic opportunity for an aspiring politician, maybe one who was there before, to say, see, if we had been the ones selected, things would not be going the way in which they are. Is that the case?
Certainly. I want to say here that one of the reasons myself I stuck with Jubilee, while the whole country in the region, or the whole population in the regions we come from, were all under the yellow fever thing, is because as part of our campaign, we were talking about continuity. And I know continuity is not a thing you want to market a lot when you are looking for a change of government. But it wasn't continuity in everything, but continuity at least of the programs that seem to have been working with improvements. Because you see, why were there pilots survey or pilot work in the universal healthcare industry? Is so that this National Hospital Insurance Fund, what kind of improvements are required for us to be able to achieve that universal health care? So those changes had to come with any new government. But these programs that were working and had worked for 10 years, it's very naive of anybody to just come and turn them all of a sudden and get to a new thing. And I call it, honestly, I tell you, I have not understood the chicha. And you can't blame me. If the doctors themselves are unable to tell the patients what, the doctors have been turned to people who are just like people who want to preside over the death of people. A slow death. Because you cannot provide what the person wants. The person cannot go through dialysis. He needs to do dialysis twice a week. He comes, you say, the program, this thing has refused to open. What do? It's like you are now telling the person to go home and start really seeing you are going to die slowly. Some actually die. And they actually die before they get home. It's also very sad for the doctors. You go to look at this university student. Before we went for Christmas holidays, 36 university students from Nairobi walked over to my office. And they said, we are here. We ourselves are at a funding model we do not understand. If you ask any of us how much has been paid and what is expected of them they do not know. Those in first year said nothing so far has been paid on their account. They are not in the system that the university uses, because for you, I don't want to pretend that I can explain how it works, but I'm being told my wife lectures at the university, but she tells me, for your name, for the student to access the app and to be assessed, to be allowed to do exams, he or she must have paid school fees. So none of those in first year are in the system now, unless they bypass the way the system is supposed to work. So, but they are still waiting for money to be sent from the universities, and they are supposed to be given exams. So they have now gone back to the manual way of doing things.
Oh dear.
So this is a very pathetic kind of situation that we are in. So when you hear me saying perhaps it is upon us now to walk over and try and let some of these guys and check them up, see whether they can wake up, because they are in some slabberad somewhere. And it's very, very, very tricky. Them, they're just already looking at 2027. If they
that is the focus.
The focus is 2027 and how they can maneuver things. Blink 41 against 1. Because that is one of the policies that is on the table. 41 against 1. And unfortunately, some of the other people we had in the opposition, 41 against 1 was used during the 2007, where everybody was, all the other communities were hyped and psyched and incited against those from the mountain. And that kind of, those kind of controversies, onslaughts, helped. Yes, would help sustain some political movement. KANU used it for quite a while, and they were in power. Under
Moi
used it. Yes, and then they were able to succeed in landing us with a minority leadership.
Yeah.
They would get voted in by about 30%, but then they'll scatter everybody else with, and you have 20, 29, 28. If you add up your other votes, they come to something like 40 something, almost.
No, it was more.
Sometimes 50, almost 60. But you have yes, you are right. But he was able to rule us with 30%. So this 41 against 1 is what was on the table. And some people are already celebrating in it. The appointment of Akina Kagwe, Akina Lee, Kinyajui, Kapogo, Dirito Murithi, and all those people were picked on their own account. People would want to lead more than that. But
you've actually preempted the question.
It was all on their own account.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with the Jubilee because
No. I am here telling you that the government is not working. If you have been taken on board like you have been taken on board in ODM, I should be here saying that Ruto should be elected to 2032. You have heard them say it since they got into the broad-based government.
We've also had the
but we'll come there
exactly where you're sitting.
Yeah, and saying that's not
the case.
Yes, correct. Now, you will not fight that double talk in Jubilee. As in Jubilee, we understand what is happening. And I'm saying that I have nothing. I'm not bad-mouthing any person who chose to work with the government. We want to see delivery of services. Time is not waiting. But it's a question of whether are they going to be given that opportunity to deliver on the mandates that they have been given. Is it a full mandate, or are you going to be required to do what others have been subjected to? I hope not. But what I was saying is that even with those capacities, I think I've lost my line of thought. But let me say we have to make sure that these systems that were working, that's what I wanted maybe to say.
Yeah.
These systems that were working before, you cannot be forgiven if you come and say that you are going to give us something better. And we end up seeing that even actually what was better is what was there before. That lack of foresight is what they're actually now substituting, and we're trying to focus. I now get where I was, the 41 against 1.
Yes.
And you can see some individuals, unfortunately some of them from our coalition partner, Azimio ODM, seeing like it is an opportunity to hit us. I've seen very many tweets from some of the individuals trying to propagate the 41 against 1. And that's why I want to say this before I forget. Among there are many other things, because in the midst of all this, hii shida yote tumewekwa ndani yake jamani, kwa sababu hatuwezi kuwa tunaamka kila asubuhi. I never imagined that nitaamka miaka 5 kila asubuhi ni kuteta kwa sababu ya shida. Kuteta tu baada ya shida. And I tell you, I've seen something very interesting this morning along the road. Matatu hii kuguzana tu. Najua ni watu wanaweza kuguzana, lakini magari sikiguzana zinasimama. Watu wakiguzana wanaendelea tu. So we must thank our creator.
Yeah.
You don't get dented by touching another. Gari sikiguzana, maybe some matatu hata haikuguza, iliguza gari ya mtu mwingine. A young man in another vehicle that was ahead stopped, left his vehicle and came out. You know the road rage. Came out, was just holding his phone. I'm sure he may be dropping a child to school, the sister, sibling or something. Na akatoka akaenda, akakonga matatu, tokeni nyote. And what did I see? Everybody in the matatu alighted, and it's like everybody was saying, Mugu saidia mimi. Because you could see the anger in the young man. Now, where is this anger coming from? It's not from that. It is the anger in the society. People are angry. They are angry. And he commandeered the matatu to off the road, sumama pale.
Yeah.
I commended him for that also, because he didn't create a jam. He actually cleared
the road
and told the matatu fella, sort out this mess. So, but you can actually see that kind of anger. Where is it coming from? Because nothing is functioning. Nothing is working. I am told the civil servants again, is it this month or next month, again, national, what do I call NSSF, the figures have gone up. On the same pay slip,
yes,
they have gone up.
Yeah.
They're eating it. So why wouldn't you expect anger to be there? So instead of us focusing on those issues, we start focusing on a community, on another. In fact, I have said before that I have welcomed Lydiah come to our side.
Mm-hmm.
It's good that you now can see what we were telling you before you voted, ya kwamba hapo ni shida, mumetuweka ndani ya shida, amekubali kutoka huko. He is actually the best he is the best soldier now to fight the system that he put in place.
Oh,
I'm happy.
Hang on a minute.
I'm happy about that.
Sorry, yes, Jay, I have to ask you, because I know we want to go to a break, but I have to ask you something there. You've just said the words that he's the best soldier to take over. So, at that,
not to take over,
or to join. He's the best.
He's the best soldier. He's the best soldier.
Because he's been inside and he's seen what would have gone wrong. So
he's the best soldier
side,
attacking and fighting the system he put in place.
Because he's been there.
Because, not maybe because he's been there, but because he has now to fight them, because they have thrown him out. And when you're fighting an enemy, you welcome everybody else. We need, let me tell you, colleagues, it's overwhelming to deal with the mistakes that are being committed by KK. You need as many people as possible to come and help you. It's overwhelming. Every single day there is a disaster that is in the making. Today, and it will come in a couple of days, it will be here. The NEMIS, the thing that worked for our students, is now being remodeled like the chicha. They have again seen a place where they can, do some bits of business.
Let's say benefit
from it, and they are going to collapse the NEMIS.
Let's take a break.
So before the break, allow me to say this. So if Lydiah can come and help us, slow them down, let it come. Of course, let him come, and we're happy to have him, and we are happy with what he's doing. Of course, what we have to be careful is that we do not want people coming out and then sprintering the opposition that we are trying to put together, because then you become an agent of William Samoei Ruto, who is looking for a way of sprintering us so that he can run us for 10, 20, 15 years, and for them to manufacture terms and manufacture votes, like they have said.
It's 24 minutes to 10 o'clock. The Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, Jeremiah Kioni, is our guest this hour, and looking at, is it time for an honest conversation in politics? If those who are on the out would have been on the in, would they have been singing the same song? We'll continue when we come back from this. Remember, you can register to attend the first ever Study Abroad annual conference that takes place in Eldoret on the 27th of January at the Okoh Hotel, or in Nairobi on the 18th of January at the Gallant Mall in Parklands. Talk to professionals, match yourself with career choices, and also the best destination to pursue your education at the university level. You can also find out the best strategy to use to secure a student visa, accommodations, and as well as scholarships. Register www.cradle.com or call 0799 000 444 so that you can get an invite, because we need you to be invited to this. Register. That's www.cradle.com.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
And this is the weather this morning. We start from Nairobi, where we are experiencing highs of 23 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. In Kakamega County, highs of 30 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. And in Vita, that is in Mombasa, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. And in the lakeside city of Kisumu, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 17 degrees. Across the borders to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, highs of 22 degrees and lows of 7 degrees. And in Mogadishu, in Somalia, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 23 degrees. In France, that is Paris, highs of 6 degrees and lows of 0 degrees, and in London, highs of 10 degrees and lows of 7 degrees. That is the weather this hour.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, let's see what's happening as we come out of traffic hour. Very little traffic left on these streets this morning. Just a little bit of it on Kangunda Road as you touch on Outer Ring. And then also as you get off the Thika Superhighway, right around Survey, getting into the CBD this morning, that continues. And we're looking at some traffic, a very little bit of it left on Langata Road as well as on Ngong Road, getting into the CBD. But we've done well today, coming out of traffic hour, but we can talk through the morning. Let us know what's going on where you are and keep things moving regardless. SpiceFM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
21 minutes left in this conversation with the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, Jeremiah Kioni. And some of the things that we are looking at and asking that question as we're going to the break, would we be hearing the same song? And when we talk about honesty needed in the political sphere, would we be hearing the same sentiment if the roles had been switched?
You see, I think it's good to have this conversation at this time. And it's very difficult for you to speak about yourself. But when we were campaigning for Jubilee and Raila Amolo Odinga and Azimio, we were campaigning using a platform that had been developed by Jubilee per se, because I was talking about continuity because I had seen what had been achieved by the Jubilee government. Today, you can actually see all those programs that were meant to help us. They were like social support systems. The Ridamama programs. I'm told I had some young people saying, it's no longer Ridamama, now it's Ridangombe. You know, these young people are very, very innovative. We had the ICT programs that were being run by Muchero, that were creating capital. We had the KEWOP. You are looking fairly young. This KEWOP thing, the Kenya Youth something. You remember that program?
Yes.
That was giving young people 40,000 shillings. And it was cashing all over the country. Now it's not there. This, you had even things like Kazi kwa Vijana. However crude it was looking, there was money being given to people so that they can afford something as the economy picks and creates proper help to people. And it wasn't going to be easy. Unfortunately, dishonesty, and this is why I like the word honesty today, dishonesty was used during the last campaigns. You bad-mouthed people talked about how selfish they are, the programs that don't work. Everything we did was because we had interest in those investments. You try and bring a bill that was, and when you get into power, you bring under Nadani. You talk about the milk industry, and the next thing you do is still the dishonesty that is on the table today. And that is why they are not able to see beyond being angry with us when we point it out. So the things have been different, certainly, because why am I here today is to say, if we get an opportunity now, because that is in the past, these taxes that have been heaped on people would have to be removed. You cannot tax people beyond a point where they themselves cannot survive. The only reason that we are here is to help each other. So taxation must be reasonable. We must do away with all this taxation. The regulations that are being brought in the agricultural sector must be done away with. This thing of climate change, you have seen in the US, the Democrats lost on the account of climate change because everything about climate change was hurting the people. We now are told there are some parts of our forests that we have to cede to the global market because of climate change. We need to understand what it means. These are things. So honesty must be. When I come here and tell you, because I can see what is happening, I am among the people who are saying, to avoid all this and to ensure that Kenyans get out of where we are, we must put our ambitions, slow our ambitions. If I wanted to run for president 2027, I'm saying, and especially if I'm coming from the mountain, I'm saying, and I'm not saying people should not declare, but our position as Jubilee is this: we are going to run a non-mountain candidate.
Okay. Why
our candidate for Jubilee will be a non-mountain candidate.
It seems to be important. Why is that important?
Because then I'm able to deal with this 41 against 1. Because if people are taken back to the Moi era and they are told about these mountain people, like you had some of the individuals who joined cabinet the other day saying like some places have tarmac to want to be outside and take the demands of my people to them. Me coming from the mountain so that I can go and angle for development in my area while I'm not the one at the executive.
But even
before that, I invited Oparanya to my constituency when I was a member of parliament. And I made Oparanya to drive not along the Nyeri Nyahururu highway to get into the constituency. And when we go to a place called Dogino, he asked me, "Are you sure we are still in in central Kenya?" I told him, "Yes. This is still Central Province, the way we used to call them." Then he asked me, "And what is this whole thing we've been..." Oparanya donated nurses from Butere constituency. He was the MP for Butere and MP and Minister for Planning. He donated nurses from Butere constituency to my constituency because all the health centers were without an officer.
Why?
Because we didn't have.
They need to be posted.
They need to be posted by the national issue.
There's somebody who does a job of ensuring that posting happens.
You are spot on. They had been posted across the country. But the perception is that in our region, they are already, it's automatic. All hospitals would have even doctors and gynecologists and people who can do operation surgeons. But when you go in there, you realize the need that is there, the poverty levels. Yesterday, a research was released, and we will have time to talk about it. Look at the distribution of wealth, the growth that is happening across counties. Look at the counties around our region. So other than that, other than the fact that we want to ensure that mountain does not become the only block that is offering a presidential card, because we have a control of about 7 million votes. So any person we put there will either win or become a running. Or, will force a runner a second round of elections. Now we are saying these 7 million votes, and this is my appeal to people from the mountain. Tukubali sasa. Wacha sisi pia tukae kando. Tutafute mtu ambaye anaweza ongoza Kenya from another smaller community. Akuje, we give him our 7 million votes. We campaign with him. Of course, he must win the vote. Then we are able to take issues to him and say we need more constituencies like other areas.
But is that not what happened with these elections?
Well, it didn't. That time was not. It is. We are now making it a very deliberate thing.
And I'm saying it did because...
Okay, it did. We had Lydiah and Ruto.
Yes.
And what we are now trying to say, the difference here is this: we do not want to have to split our votes. We want them in one basket.
How did you split the votes when, in my mind, the tilt that came and what enabled the KK government to win, it has been said, was the mountain?
It was the mountain because watu hawakuwa wamejielewa. Sasa wamejielewa. Walichezewa with the dishonesty.
What makes us think that wamejielewa sasa kama hawakujielewa hapo kando?
The thing is that we split our votes, and it's true we voted in Ruto and we voted in Lydiah. We're also looking for new faces. Faces that have not been seen. Maybe seen, but faces that have not tried this thing before. As a candidate, but we still have others. Like we have still Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. We are not saying that he's not there, but we are going to have Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka is a candidate in the opposition, Wiper. We have Omarwa, a candidate in the opposition, DAPK. Yes, so we are saying Jubilee, another party in the opposition with a candidate, and I'm now talking about Jubilee, where we are saying we have ourselves decided that, but it's a thing that we will carry across the country to ensure that it is also coming from the people. But our thinking is that we have a candidate who is a non-Kikuyu, helping us. Remember, we never had a candidate as Jubilee last time.
This thing that you say, is this not what Uhuru Kenyatta was trying to say?
No. You remember Uhuru Kenyatta was trying something different.
What was he trying?
But he tried something different with people in other parties. Yes. So even as he was trying it in other parties, he didn't have the attitude to help, because we have picked you from the Proverbs party.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you are controlled by the Proverbs from all over the Africa. But now we want somebody who is also in Jubilee. We're saying, because let me also tell you why it will be a little different.